subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Only control the infection or not, but also control the direction of distortion. If you have enough time and knowledge. Lin Xiu feels that he can create another umbrella company in minutes. And, regardless of the fact that he only has a bottle of reagent in his hand, this is just a matter of realization, just a sample. After successfully containing SCP-008, he can take out infinite viruses at any time. In other words, the inventory in his hand is unlimited. I made a lot of money. There was a smile on the corner of Lin Xiu's mouth. This increase in strength finally felt a little real. Besides the members of the Foundation, he could immediately create a team of tyrants, which greatly enriched the combat power of his subordinates. Ding! Containment of SCP-008 complete. Whether to open the extraction of the fourth contained item exposure and advent. Whether the familiar words lit up in front of my eyes again. Lin Xiu, who has tasted the sweetness, has no hesitation at all. What came to an end amidst all kinds of flashes and splashes was a trickling clear spring with a peaceful atmosphere. Tisk, it turned out to be it. Lin Xiu felt a toothache looking at the picture. The containment object might not be very threatening originally, but the chain reaction it triggers after its arrival will definitely make people speechless. Let's find a remote place. Lin Xiu smacked his lips, trying to find a suitable position on the selection screen. Before SCP-008 was highly contagious. Only the top powers could be selected to launch it. Only they can control the situation in the shortest time and prevent it from collapsing. But this time the containment has no such worries. Mutant School. Eric, give up. Your attempt will not succeed. In the face of this dangerous natural disaster, only when the common people and the mutant unite can mankind have a future. Endless psychokinesis sway. Professor X stepped out from the crowd, looking forward with a solemn expression. The X-Men sighed. All of them were high-spirited and clearly had the upper hand. It's because your naive idea can't be realized. Magneto got up from the ground, feeling a little embarrassed. Professor X's recovered body caught him off guard and made him suffer a small loss. In the stalemate, he lost directly, but the expression is still not reconciled. Humans are creatures that are best at eliminating dissidents. The world of mutants can only be ruled by mutants. Your stupid ideas can only be ruined. Magneto scoffed. I won't give up so easily. The future belongs only to us mutant. Magneto clutched his injured body and chose to leave surrounded by the shape-shifting girls. Although injured, but his strength should not be underestimated. Professor. Cyclops frowned slightly. Not the time. Professor X shook his head. Cherish every strength now. Definitely not the time for infighting. Although Magneto suffered a loss and lost, the strength of his subordinates is still good. Now is an extraordinary time. Not only the situation of mutant, but also the situation of the Earth is not stable, even precarious. Professor X looked up, and the new countdown on the screen was coming to an end. New containment. It's coming soon. Be prepared and try to fight for it. Professor X narrowed his eyes slightly, and his expression was a bit dignified. To achieve his goal, appropriate external force is necessary. After experiencing the miraculous curative effect of SCP-500, he has high expectations for these contained items. SHIELD, aren't Superman and Batman here? Nick Fury frowned. These are the two great powers he has his eye on, especially Superman, the terrifying power that even made him see the shadow of Captain Marvel, definitely among the top superpowers he has come into contact with. No, they seem to have returned to Gotham City and need to deal with some things. And the aftermath of the infected in Queens also needs a large amount of medicine supply. Phil Coulson shook his head, whispering beside him. Okay, then let's meet our new member, Iron Man, Tony Stark. Nick Fury nodded. During the conversation with Doctor Strange just now, he had already tricked him into the Avengers he had just formed with his own charisma. New member? I don't remember ever promising something like this. Also, Avengers or something. Listen to me, this name is really ugly. Tony's slightly picky voice sounded. Playboy walked slowly with a young man with immature features, like a student chapter 029, SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. Thor is coming to Earth. Team leader. Nick Fury nodded towards Captain America behind Tony. Turning to look at Tony. Won't you introduce me to the guy next to you? Peter Parker. Just call me Peter. Seeing the little Spider-Man of Big Shot for the first time, he was obviously a little shy. Spider-Man? Do you want to join the Avengers and fight for the world? Nick Fury's eyes lit up, and his instinct to cheat was awakened again. Can I? Peter looked surprised. Definitely. Braised Egg nodded, it's safe. After a few words made the hot-blooded boy dizzy, he turned his eyes to Tony again. Earth. Well, this kind of talk is useless to me. Tony interrupted impatiently. Let's settle the matter first. The new coming thing is about to start again. The time is too fast. I hope it won't be this kind of high-risk containment again. Tony scratched his head in displeasure. Looking up at the screen, the ticking countdown in the sky is coming to an end. Countdown to exposure of the fourth containment item. 0 hours and 59 minutes. Asgard, father. Are we going to make a move? Thor watched the countdown on the screen, his eyes flickering eagerly. This is a battle. His favorite thing is fighting. To be able to compete with all kinds of powerful people in the 9 realms. Let them experience their own strength and spread their prestige. This is definitely Thor's favorite thing. Before, he thought Midgard was weak, so he was not interested. But now, Thor was obviously interested in the power users who had shown off their horns. Just the Superman who appeared in the zombie disaster before. It seems that he can fight well. Definitely a good opponent. Wolverine seems to be good too. Don't worry about killing him. Iron Man. The iron bumps are a bit strenuous, and I'm not interested. Why? Just when Thor was thinking about competing with his opponents. Odin on the throne sighed insignificantly. Unexpectedly, he, a king who claims to be wise, would have such a stupid son. The lifespan enters the twilight years. But the successor is an idiot who only knows how to be brave and ruthless. And the other is even more outrageous, who can only play tricks behind his back. The king can be reckless, but he must not shrink back, hiding in the shadow of others. How can you make your subordinates surrender? If it is said that Thor's recklessness may lead Asgard to danger, then Loki's small tricks are not even on the table, and he is not even qualified to compete for the king. For these two successors, Odin can be said to be quite tired. Shaking his head, with a tired expression on his face, he directly rejected Thor's request. Stay in God's domain. With the current chaotic situation in Midgard, Odin is definitely not willing to throw his son into the trial. No matter how stupid you are still your own stupid brother. Military podium, various large and small screens are intertwined and scattered. Monitor the country as much as possible. Attempt to mobilize and react within the shortest possible time when the containment arrives and minimize the loss. Hope the contained objects that came this time don't appear in the Empire's territory again. The Major General with flowers on his shoulders looked at the screen and said with emotion. His words, it has aroused the approval of countless colleagues next to him. Empire, it is too miserable. The contained objects descended 3 times, and each time they appeared at the core of the Empire. Those who didn't know it thought it was a crime of nature. Many people sitting here have moved to emigrate to other places. Little life is the most important thing. Work, you can commute by plane, it's not a problem at all. Quiet. Video exposure start. Sitting at the forefront, the general with a stern expression spoke. With cumbersome shoulder straps, he was an honored general. Exposure. The fourth containment item SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. Clatter, clear springs, and flowing water sound from the mountains. The clear stream gushes from the oasis grass, and the cheerful sound of the water seems to be singing. It is a spring in an oasis. The flowing water irrigates the surrounding oasis, and countless birds and beasts fly from the sky to drink from the spring. Oasis spring water? The contents this time feel very ordinary. Yeah, it feels like that. The spring water is quite clear, but it feels like that, and the name is very grand. The bad-mouthing voice of the blockbuster sounded on the internet. The sudden means of making clear springs appear in the oasis is indeed amazing and amazing at other times. But it's really far from the gestures shown by the Foundation's containment objects before. Zombie virus horror dolls panacea that is not an extraordinary and incomprehensible method. It is just spring water gushing out of the desert. It is too common to compare. But is it possible? Is it really a fountain of youth? Literally, it is a fountain of youth that can make people live forever. In the biological sense, eternal immortality, in other words, is eternal life. A bullet screen quietly crossed the internet, although extremely fast, disappeared like a meteor falling to the ground. But the sudden reaction it caused directly detonated the world. Longevity, not old. This is the eternal fantasy of mankind for the future. Chapter 030, Odin. This is the treasure that belongs to Asgard. Is it fake? Is this spring water really able to make people ageless? Isn't that just a myth? I don't believe it. It's impossible, absolutely impossible. How can there be such a bug? Countless people couldn't believe it. The picture on the screen is not high-end. At most, it can be regarded as a fresh scenery. The flowing spring water, just like this, flows in the oasis for free, and the immortality, which is comparable to a mythical item, is really far from the picture style. Don't believe it? The name of the panacea is also so concise. The cold barrage slides across the internet. On the internet, the barrage froze for an instant, and the picture became much clearer. It has been proven that the panacea that can cure all known diseases, SCP-500, its appearance is just like a small pill. Why? This spring cannot make people live forever? Containment. It has never been defined by inherent thinking. They are all incarnations of otherworldly concepts. Gulu, black marinated egg. This thing can't be real, can it? Tony couldn't help swallowing. Excessively excited, he even pronounced the nickname he slandered in his heart. But it doesn't matter. Nick Fury was obviously too shocked to notice this at all. Longevity? Not old. Could it really be what they guessed? He bowed his head gravely. The barrage swarming across the internet made him frown. Asgard Golden Hall. Not old. Odin's eyes were fixed, and he couldn't help but clench the armrest on the throne. There was an expressionless expression on his face. Rare changes occur. Kamar Taj, new containment. Ancient One murmured softly, staring at the picture on the screen with a serious expression. She has always been extraordinary, and she felt a rare turmoil in her heart. Unable to control her emotions well, a dark energy leaped out from her fingertips, but was snuffed out by her in an instant. Military, ha ha ha. Fake. It must have been guessed by those guys randomly. It's just a name, just like all kinds of tourist attractions in our country. It's just a gimmick. How can it be true, right, sir? Those birds and beasts have not changed at all after drinking the spring water. They must be fake. The Major General, who just prayed that the contents would not come to the Empire. His expression suddenly became stiff. He could clearly feel the weird sights around him, and he wanted to ease the atmosphere with a ha-ha. But the Supreme Officer looked at him with an unusually cold expression. Ice cold, it's like looking at the enemy in this life. Front. The exposure content continues to change. SCP-006 Fountain of Youth Object Level. Safe. Intake of this liquid will bring the following effects to the human body. Completely replicate and repair DNA damage. Strengthen cell division. Greatly improve the speed of damaged tissue repair and greatly improve the efficiency of the immune system. In animal experiments, it can destroy harmful bacteria and virus reagents injected into the body. Note: most reptiles and birds are not affected by the liquid composition of SCP-006, and the symptoms of advanced primates are highly consistent with those of humans. A large string of text that is biased toward scientific description seems a bit confusing, but in layman's terms, it means longevity, not old. Repairing DNA damage and strengthening cell division can keep the human body in the prime of life without being affected by aging, increase the speed of repair, give people efficient self-healing power, and improve the immune system to prevent all diseases. literally exposed content. It has already proved the horror of SCP-006, Fountain of Youth. True to its name, Asgard Golden Hall. Click. The armrest on the throne was crushed to pieces. Father, Thor turned his head, with a bit of astonishment on his face. No, it's okay. Odin breathed heavily, and it took him a long time to calm down. We all know, the biggest characteristic of the Asgard royal family, or the Warner Protoss, is that the older they are, the stronger they are. Their strength will continue to grow with age. Moreover, this kind of improvement is still a linear skyrocketing. The closer to the end of life, the more terrifying the increase in strength. So, Odin's strongest peak has never been before. But now, the strength of the old version of Odin is a well-deserved horror. Odin, Thor, Hela, and so are all the royal families of Asgard. But, similarly, following that, there is a drawback. Life. When they are at their strongest, their lifespan is coming to an end, their bodies are gradually decaying, and they are about to enter death. But years ago, this containment could actually allow people to maintain immortality, to slow down the time of death through the acceleration and repair of cell division. Even if the extended time can only be halfway, it is an unimaginable treasure for Asgard. Think about it. Asgard's already terrifying strength has leapt up again. This is simply an alternative evolution. With absolute strength, all schemes are ridiculous paper tigers. As long as he can win this containment and give it to Thor, Odin will no longer have to worry about being unable to hold back the scene as a fool. This is the treasure that belongs to Asgard. In Odin's open one eye, a golden brilliance blooms that is inevitable. Chapter 031. The Immortal Crazy. Step on the earth, on the verge of doom. Heimdall. Open Bifrost, ready to take Thor to Midgard. Odin's vast voice sounded. The door of Asgard. Looking around with his eyes open, Heimdall, who was monitoring the 9 realms, froze instantly. Bowing his head towards the unknown place, he respectfully said, "Yes." Inside the Golden Hall, "Father, do you allow me to go to Midgard?" Thor opened his mouth in surprise. It's to get back the Fountain of Youth. Seeing the fighting spirit bursting out in his eyes, Odin's fist was a little itchy, and he pressed down forcibly to bear the discomfort in his heart, and continued to speak to Heimdall. Pay attention to the movement of Midgard. Once they lock the location of the Fountain of Youth, immediately teleport Thor without a moment's delay. The place where the containment falls has its own shielding effect. Even if he can observe the 9 realms, he cannot use extraordinary means to observe and can only wait for human beings to discover it before doing it. But it doesn't matter. With Bifrost here, the Asgard are definitely the first to arrive. Let the Sifs go with you. This time belongs to your experience. If your performance is not up to standard, you can stay in Midgard forever. At that time, I will seal the power of Mjolnir and let you live in Midgard as a mortal. This is me, Lord of Asgard, Odin's oath. Before Thor could speak, Odin looked over with cold eyes. The arrogance of the god, king, made him lose his voice. Fountain of Youth. Fountain of Life. Nick Fury's complexion was completely darkened into a marinated egg. Not old. Longevity. Everyone wants it. He is definitely no exception. But, as the king of agents, he knows very well what a terrifying turmoil the appearance of this kind of thing will cause. Even oil, which represents energy, can cause countless countries to fight in chaos, like a cemetery for empires. Let alone this kind, the highest level fetish of human fantasy. To put it mildly, it was the trigger of the Third World War. To put it seriously, the war situation is out of control, completely destroying the balance of the world situation, triggering nuclear blackmail, causing the surface of the Earth to fall into a cold winter, breaking out of nuclear doomsday, and human civilization is coming to an end. Not possible, but must. No powerful country can accept hostile forces and control such superstandard things. All agents, whether it's on standby or lurking, we will do whatever it takes to locate the Fountain of Youth as soon as possible. We must find it as quickly as possible. Nick Fury's face was extremely gloomy, and the hands that were pressed on the table trembled slightly. Is it the Fountain of Youth? The members of the newly formed Avengers Alliance next to them, watching this scene, felt the horror of this power. Or under this force, the hearts of those affected are terrifying. The panacea is only to cure the disease, but this spring water is to prolong life. And in the picture, the Fountain of Youth is rushing and flowing, and the spring water inside is definitely not just a little bit. Military, the major general who made a wish indiscriminately just now has been taken out. I'm afraid I won't be able to return to this meeting room for the rest of my life. At all costs, lock the target location and block the target location. Fountain of Youth belongs to the Empire. The old army general's face was full of fanatical gazes, and the communicator in his hand had already been blown up by all the high-level officials. Spear Bureau, the place where the Fountain of Youth is located, has been our territory since ancient times. It must be taken back. The weather which patted the table firmly. The far side of the moon. I think we can't just sit back and watch this any longer. This epic-making change, we Inhumans cannot miss it again. If you can't catch up this time, if you continue to watch, you will only be completely abandoned by the times. With the deafening sound sounded, the roaring sound waves resounded across the surface of the moon, and streamers of light were already headed towards the Earth in unknown places. Somewhere in the wilderness, Johnny galloped by on a ghost motorcycle. Shit, that damn devil is here again. Johnny's face was dark, and the scorching, tingling sensation told him that he was different. Is it the Fountain of Youth? The devil is also interested in this kind of thing. Johnny sneered, but finally turned around, stepped on the accelerator, and blocked it to the top. Hum amidst the roar of the engine. The flames from hell twisted and rose from below. Become a ghost rider and charge towards an oasis in the wild. Kamartaj, the power of immortality. There was an inexplicable brilliance in Ancient One's eyes, and it must be said that she was also a little moved. Rather than drawing on the power of the dark dimension to sustain life, dance with evil. Obviously, the current one is more reliable. But, do you need to get it? Ancient One whispered softly. In other words, is it really necessary to live any longer? Under the plain hood, Ancient One's eyes are slightly narrowed, and the eyes of the vicissitudes of life are filled with endless fatigue. Resisting the invasion of the Earth by countless dimensions alone for hundreds of years, Ancient One's inner tiredness and boredom, only she knows. For others, longevity is a treat. But for Supreme Mage, there is only responsibility. Heavy responsibility. Chapter 032, Ghost Rider Debut. The rainbow runs through the 9 realms. Mutant Academy. Professor, you can really live forever. Cyclops looked a little excited. You should send someone there, but don't worry too much about it. On the premise of protecting yourself, we will rob you. Professor X shook his head calmly. Immortality sounds wonderful, but it is not his pursuit. This power, it is not very helpful to achieve his goal, but it is more likely to bring disaster to Mutant. He definitely doesn't want to waste his strength on such things. Peace. In other words, the peaceful coexistence of common people and Mutant is his goal. For a noble ideal, he can sacrifice everything. To some extent, he and Magneto are the same kind of person, but the paths chosen by the two are different. Gotham City, Kunlun City, Metropolitan City, everywhere, there are superheroes and villains on the rise. Some people take this power lightly. For example, Scarlet Witch, after in-depth cultivation of origin magic power, is strong enough to alter reality, making her look down on the Fountain of Youth at all, because she is essentially immortal. How can you care about not getting old? But more people obviously couldn't ignore this power, and they all looked for it with fanaticism. In the dark, the lurking Hydra also quietly revealed its snake head. Hail Hydra! Countless forces and countries. They were all shocked by the contents exposed this time. All kinds of flight devices roared, and the number poured into the desert was the sum of the past. Many tribes in backward areas saw it and directly worshipped it as gods. The fighter plane takes off. The troops are dispatched. The borders of all countries have entered a state of martial law. Secretly, Many nuclear bomb silos were quietly put in place. As long as they are politically and intellectually qualified to be in power, they will all guard against the worst possible consequences. The council nearly collapsed. Time passed by bit, just when the tense rationality of various forces is about to reach the limit. Bum, the roaring ghost fire motorcycle is like walking on the ground in the desert. The hellfire burning on a motorcycle can even burn sand directly into quartz and glass. Far away, an oasis is quietly in sight. The trickling streams flow from it, and the flying birds and animals are very eye-catching in the desert. Fountain of Youth. Found it. Lucky for that guy. Johnny pouted. It seems that his luck is not so good. Johnny smiled mischievously, and not far from the edge of the oasis, a large number of men in black who were driving there also got out of the car and rushed over, and the other party seemed to have seen him too. Who? Damn it, someone got there first. I just said that I should be the first to drive the battle suit. Come first, but you may not be able to occupy after the loud noise. A group of guys in strange clothes and Johnny's eyes appeared in front of his eyes after slamming on the brakes. An unexpected tourist? A treasure hunter in the wild? Tony frowned. Forget it, don't care. No matter what your status is, go away. This is not a place for you to stay. As compensation for your unlucky luck, after you go back, you could get a sum of money from Stark Industry. Don't worry, it's enough for you, for a lifetime. Tony waved his hand generously. This kind of thing is not something that common people can covet at all. The torrent driven secretly is enough to crush a country that is not weak into ashes. Tony persuaded him to leave, definitely for the good of the other party. Leave? It's a pity that I discovered this first. Johnny grinned. Having signed a contract with Murto, he had no choice but to exchange his status as a Ghost Rider at the price of saving his adoptive father's cancer, who had just recovered from cancer. He definitely couldn't just pull away like that. There was a burning pain in the palm. Faith promised him that as long as he could take away the Fountain of Youth, he would undo the contract on his soul. It seems that I have no reason to back down. Johnny stepped forward. The hellfire shot up from the ground and engulfed his whole body. His head turned into a hole, and the chains of hell were wrapped around his body. His terrifying posture was like an evil spirit rushing out of hell. Ghost Rider, true to its name. In order to deal with the complicated situation, Faith gave him a lot of tricks. Gradually increasing strength is not enough at all. Necro, demon. Tony's pupils shrank, and a half-covered battle suit instantly enveloped his whole body. Iron Man is armed. The thrusters spewed out, and they retreated crazily, pulling away a suitable distance. You can actually call me Ghost Rider. Johnny vibrates and makes a sound. The sound waves in the hellfire are more like some kind of angry growls than human voices. Careful! The spinning vibranium shield hit from behind. Captain America approached Tony warily, and the two fought side by side. Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange frowned. The magic elongated in his hands, forming two magic circles, and instantly entered the fighting state. Almost at the same time, Asgard. Odin's deep voice said, Heimdall, follow your orders. Heimdall bowed his head respectfully. At the same time, the mighty Bifrost fell from the sky, straight through Thor and the waiting Sif. Gorgeous and full of brilliance, the other side pierces directly towards Midgard, and the rainbow brilliance runs through the 9 realms. Boom! A member of the Avengers Alliance fighting Ghost Rider. When I looked up, I saw a huge amount of rainbow beam falling from the sky, as if penetrating the earth from the other side of the Heaven Chapter 033. God and hell. Mommy Frankman strikes. What is that? The rainbow in the desert is so domineering. Barton, who stretched his bow, an arrow in the distance, was stunned. How can it be a rainbow without water vapor? Also, the rainbow can't be in this shape. The instinct of a top student made Tony directly open his mouth to refute regardless of the fact that he was fighting. Joke! The rainbow is light. Where does the impact come from? This ghost thing is obviously wrong. Boom! A mighty impact fell from the sky. The shockwave erupting in the rainbow beam of light immediately attracted the attention of both sides. Ha! Looks like I came just in time. Although it's not the blood-boiling battle I expected, it seems good as an appetizer to warm up. Thor's hearty laugh rang out from Bifrost. With Mjolnir in hand, occupy the C position strongly. Thor, don't forget the order of the God King Odin. Sif and the 3 warriors of Asgard follow behind, all wearing armor with Asgard characteristics. Got it, got it. Is it just to take back the Fountain of Youth? Thor waved his hand impatiently. God King. Tony frowned, with a strange expression on his face. Don't you want to say that you are a god from heaven? Although I have seen magic and powerful and inexplicable contained objects, I have greatly expanded my 3 views. But for something illusory like a god, Tony is obviously thankful for his insensitivity. Could it be that these mutants imagined it themselves after reading too many fairy tales? Tony cursed in his heart. He does not believe that there are gods in the world, and it's the name of God King Odin. That's right. We are gods from heaven. Midgard is our sanctuary. I am Thor, and I am here today to take back the Fountain of Youth. Thor patted his chest and spoke. Don't look at his rough face, but he is not stupid. Declare sovereignty as soon as you open your mouth, and then do it directly, leaving no room for reaction. As soon as the members of the Avengers Alliance wanted to stop it, Thor greeted him domineeringly. Since you guys want to fight, then I will fight for you. With a wave of the hammer, there was endless lightning, triggering the Vientiane thunder and smashing Captain America and the others who rushed up. Tony struggled to his feet, trying to block it again. Your opponent is us. The heroic Sif rushed out wielding a big sword, and behind her were the 3 warriors of Asgard. That's my opponent. Thor frowned uncomfortably, but with Odin's order in mind, he could only walk forward. No matter what, let's get the Fountain of Youth first, and then it will be easy to fight again. Take firm steps forward. Zila boom. Just when Thor was about to reach the Fountain of Youth, the gloomy hellfire suddenly burst into the sky. Hello, don't forget there's me. Johnny's roar sounded in the distorted flames. Even if he didn't want to make a move himself, it was obviously impossible for M.O. Faith, who was watching from behind, to let him go. The stench. Thor frowned, and the surging thunder was even more terrifying. Sulfur? The smell of hell? Are you related to that Hell Lord? Forget it. It doesn't matter. Those who stand in my way will be crushed by me. I am the son of Odin. Thor growled loudly. The terrifying power of thunder entangles him, and he wields Mjolnir. His eyes burst out with dazzling thunder and lightning light due to the overload of thunder, just like Thor in Legendary. In front of him, Johnny gritted his teeth and showed off his racing skills, and the hellfire shot into the sky from the motorcycle. The chains from hell stretched out, attacking Thor. The fire was splashing and turbulent. S-H-I-E-L de Mami F-K. God King Odin? Thor. Hell Monarch? Sulfur Breath. Nick Fury looked at the picture on the screen broadcast, and his whole body was not well. What is this and what? And that guy's nickname Midgard. Could it be that there are other 8 realms on the Earth, which together are called the 9 realms? Looking at the reports compiled by the agents under his hand in a very short period of time, Lu Dan felt a throbbing pain in his head. The power on the magic side has just been contacted by him, racking his brains. In the end, even the gods and hell appeared one after another. Who could resist this? Explore. Let me find out the relevant information, even if you dig 3 feet into the ground. Nick Fury scowled, but the voice was a little weak. If this continues, he really can't stand it anymore. Team leader, the dim-eyed Nick Fury couldn't help but put his hands in his pockets. The cold touch came from his fingertips. The outline was a complex metal component similar to a pager. If gods and hell once confirmed, the impact on the Earth is no less than the arrival of a powerful containment object, especially in the case of live broadcast all over the world. Mutant Academy. Odin? Thor? Norse mythology? Really? Fake? Or is it a hoax deliberately promoted by some people? Professor X frowned. As a high-level intellectual, although he is not an expert in the study of customs, he has heard of some basic myths. The name of the Nordic god King Odin is not uncommon. Chapter 034. Murphy Toth's End. The Destroyer appears. The world shatters. Kamartai hail. Is it the smell of me, Faith? Ancient One frowned. Unlike other people's concerns, she has little interest in Odin, an old Asgard acquaintance. The Lord of Hell, the breath of me, Faith. That's what caught her attention the most. The guy who was guarding in hell unexpectedly came out restlessly. Ancient One frowned. Complex expressions flickered in his vicissitudes of life, as if he was struggling with something, tired to the point of giving up. After seeing Moto Faith appear, he was slightly shaken. All kinds of chaos appear, and Eye of Agamotto is greatly restricted now. Can Doctor Strange really carry the original burden alone? Wutsao, what kind of showmanship is this? Thor? Odin? Could it be a string of studios? This, easily manipulating thunder. Captain America is no match at all. This Thor is awesome. If the gods are real, where are Jade Emperor, Monkey Brother, and other great gods? Are we going to make an appearance too? My Lord Yahweh is the only true God in the world. God who can't even control his own situation. How can you convince me with your professional level? One stone stirs up 1,000 waves. Not long after the content of the screen was rebroadcasted, the internet exploded instantly. God. This is God. Every ethnic country has its own religious beliefs, various diss and flattery, and endless debates on the internet. This moment, all are from Zon, arguing with a hammer. No matter how powerful you are, I just want to know who the new guy from hell is. This is too exciting. Thor was directly hung up and beaten by him. The old overbearing. Just when Ghost Rider Johnny and Thor were in a stalemate. Boom. Rumble. The rising hellfire is even more ferocious on the motorcycle. The blazing flames made the space seem to be incinerated by shape-shifting, and the surroundings began to distort. No, not as if. It's a real twist. Buzz, the power of invisible spreads. A projection from the hell dimension suddenly appeared on the battlefield. A posture like a Balrog, with horns on his head and sharp claws shining coldly. He wore a cloak like a nobleman. His marble chest and muscles were directly exposed in large chunks, and crimson flames rose from his body, appearing on the ground with a thick sulfur breath. Lord of Hell, Montauk fight. Thor. Mo Fate's power possessed Johnny. With a disdainful wave of his hand, mighty power poured out, directly blasting Tony out. Even if it's just projection possession, the combat power he displays is far from comparable to that of the fledgling Thor. After clearing the obstacles, the possessed Johnny walks straight to the fountain of youth. Containment? Just let him see what it is. Moto Faith, whose body is still in hell, sneered in his heart. The steps have only just been taken. Boom. Bifrost, which just disappeared, pierces the 9 realms again. Metal light and shadow shot out from it, directly bumping into Johnny's footsteps, intercepting him alive. The towering metal armor hit the Hellfire motorcycle. The distorted flame can't cause any damage to its surface, and the extremely high magic resistance is staggering. The Destroyer? It was the power of the God King who made the move. Father. The familiar gesture made people from Asgard instantly recognize the source of power. Destroyer. The armor built by Odin has been blessed by the gods. It has extremely high resistance and can destroy all known substances. Even in the state of battle damage and sleep, it still has terrifying combat power. It is so powerful that it is scary. Asgard, Your Highness, the transmission has been completed. Heimdall bowed his head respectfully. Odin nodded slightly, with a dignified expression. Ghost Rider. Meter's power projection. Odin opened his eyes and stared at the chaotic scene on the screen. The demonized Johnny collided with the Destroyer constantly, rooted from the heritage of God. Let Ghost Rider possess the power of being almost immortal. But the Destroyer is obviously not vegetarian either. All kinds of terrifying light beams burst out. Even if it is passively responding to the enemy in a sleeping state, people can still see the horror of this armor. With extremely high defense, it can resist most attacks. Under the power of Odin, even if it is damaged, it will be restored to new in minutes. Terrifying combat power. In comparison, the power in the movie version of Thor can't even be said to be releasing water. It is obviously releasing the sea. The two terrifying forces collided, and even the ground was plowed flat. It is no weaker than the destruction caused by artillery fire. Click, click, click. The oasis in the yellow sand was torn apart by force in the aftermath of the battle, creating cracks comparable to canyons, dark and deep, as if straight into the abyss. God War. This is God War. Is this oasis in the desert going to be destroyed? I'll go. They won't fight and spread the battle completely, right? Don't scare me here. Open your eyes. Captain America is going to fight. And Iron Man in the roaring sound waves. Tony, who has stored energy to the limit, carries it at full power. With the help of Captain America to help him clear the opportunity, he took advantage of the gap in the battlefield and charged directly. Anyway, they can never sit still. The delicate Earth can't stand their tossing like this. Chapter 035. Return to youth forever. Crazy Odin. Boom. The roar of machinery erupted. Tony and Iron Man gritted his teeth and rushed forward. Go away. Johnny roared angrily from the flames. Clatter the chains, tainted with the power of hell, swept across all directions. And when Tony was about to touch the fountain of youth, the chains of hell struck from behind and directly hit Mark's battlesuit on him. Zila, a series of sparks splashing sounded. Most of the battlesuit covering the body was torn off. On the shattered battlesuit, the electric current sizzled, and large pieces of torn circuits were directly exposed. Tony rushed up. Tony played GG. Iron Man. How is it possible? How could Iron Man lose? Captain America was also repulsed. Were those things? Are there really gods? Damn it. Won't they destroy the desert if they continue fighting like this? Where's the Empire? Where's the power of the Empire? Why didn't anyone take action? No, don't get excited. There's a situation. Iron Man is fine. He is fine. Look at the picture in the sky. How is that possible? I'll go. I'm not dazzled, am I? Just as their eyes shifted, countless people stared at the broadcast screen with wide eyes, and countless people were speechless, stunned, even the overwhelming barrage on the internet. There was a vacuum for a moment. Kamar Taj, how can this be? Fountain of Immortality, that's what it means. Modu, who was flipping through the magic books in the library, stared at the picture on the screen with straight eyes, just about to use the sling ring to open the portal. But looking at the desert, the two fierce battles continue to be like the existence of gods and demons. After all, he chose Tsongshin. Military, sure. Must have it. Activate the near-ground anti-missile system and let all the Empire's anti-aircraft missile troops go there. Be sure to prevent other countries from jumping over the wall and destroying our fountain of youth. The Admiral's eyes were replaced by fanatical gazes, like wolves that had been hungry for 10 days and nights. The eyeballs are almost green. Mutant Academy. Is this the effect of the containment? It's terrifying. Professor X frowned. He suddenly felt a little regretful. This containment item is definitely beyond imagination. Its effect is far beyond everyone's expectations. With a few simple words on the exposure, who would have thought that the effect would be so terrifying in practice? If Mutant can get his hands on it, it will definitely be of great help to his plan of peaceful coexistence. This thing originally is a very high bargaining chip. Pity, Professor X's face darkened slightly, and there was deep regret in his eyes. Gotham City, it can be done to such an extent. Bruce murmured in a low voice, with disbelief in his eyes. However, that guy Tony is really lucky. The same scene happened in every corner of the world, and the content relayed on the screen shocked countless people. Unexpected turn of events. Even it can be said to be an accident. But it was such an accident that made the already boiling network crowded and collapsed again. Oasis, next to the Fountain of Youth. Tony, who was hit by Johnny with a chain, fell directly beside the spring. Under the shattered battle suit, Tony's slightly vicissitudes of appearance were revealed. The water from the Fountain of Youth flowed right beside him. The clear spring flows. Tony, who was injured, almost instinctively picked up the water and handed it to his mouth, with his lips and swallowed. Next moment, unexpected development happened to Tony. The body that was seriously injured was quickly restored to its original state under the rapid healing of cells. The embarrassed appearance soon calmed down a lot. If These are still in the anticipation of the magical effect of the Fountain of Youth. Then the next scene, it made countless people's eyes widen, and they were completely dumbfounded. I see. Tony's body went straight back to his youth, and he was 10 years younger in an instant. Tony at this stage, although not as old as an Infinity War, is still in his late 40s, a proper middle-aged figure. But after he swallowed the Fountain of Youth, his body became younger visibly with the naked eye. Just a moment, from a middle-aged uncle to a young guy. Just by looking at his appearance, someone in his 20s would believe him. Back to youth. Permanently maintain the physical condition of the young and middle age. I didn't expect the Fountain of Youth to achieve the effect of not being old. And this trick can make people go back from aging directly, stay young forever, and never age. Fountain of Youth. A veritable fountain of youth. Swish at this moment, Odin, who had forcibly calmed down and was sitting on the throne, couldn't hold back instantly. Youth forever. Using the means of reversing aging to achieve the effect of not being old. Odin's pupils shrunk. There was a bit of horror in his eyes. Originally thought it was just to lengthen the life dimension. So I planned to snatch it back for Thor and the others to use as the heritage of the Asgard royal family and increase the upper limit of their family. But now, follow the power shown in the picture. Don't you mean, as long as I take the Fountain of Youth, can I still be young forever? Gold sparkled in Odin's eyes. Odin, who was already approaching the twilight of his life, careless about everything and concentrating on cultivating the next generation of successors, couldn't sit still for a moment. At this moment, Odin's excited face was stained with frenzy. Chapter 036. Heaven and Earth Collide. Odin versus Mo Faith. The Fountain of Youth belongs to Asgard. Odin's domineering voice sounded. Kunganil, which was held tightly in his hand, burst into a bright light, and the words of the runes vibrated. Throw it forward. Boom. The blooming meteor directly penetrates the 9 realms. Along with Kungnir disappearing into Asgard, there is also Odin. The dying king of God finally couldn't help but do it. Desert Oasis. Just when Ghost Rider and Thor are fighting you and me. Call out. A tearing air sound came from beyond the sky. The speed is unimaginable. The sense of danger made Johnny feel a strong uneasiness, but he didn't have time to react. Whoosh! The spear that was still out of the sky last second. It hit him in the next second, piercing the body of the evil spirit from the inside to the outside, and the majestic force poured down continuously, and the screen was dyed in the brilliance of extreme daylight. Fell to the ground. After the lights and shadows were extinguished, a bottomless abyss suddenly appeared on the ground. A faint heat wave rises. It was as if a gun had dug into the mantle of G-hole, nailing Johnny to the point of the gun. If Odin hadn't worried too much and was more or less merciful when he shot, the blow just now could have directly penetrated the earth. A sure shot. Kunganir, what was that just now? Meteor? Meteorite? The location of the fall is too accurate, right? Meteor? Fart. This is obviously a long gun, a gun that penetrates the world. It's so powerful. Isn't this too exaggerated? All kinds of bullet screens are flying around the internet, still immersed in the immortality of SCP-006 and unable to extricate himself. The meteors falling from the sky caused a new wave in an instant. The terrorist attack exceeded everyone's expectations. Johnny and Thor fight you back and forth, and the strength of the two is obvious to all, especially when the Hell Demon appeared. After Johnny was demonized, the surging hellfire even burned the space until it was distorted. The army remotely sweeps past shells and attacks. Can't even break the defense. But such a terrifying monster was pierced through by a long spear from outside the sky. SHIELD director. According to the posture of the spear, the model of the gun body, and the performance of its strength. Most likely to be the must-hit gun in Legendary. That is, in Norse mythology, the miraculous gun that represents the power of the oath Kunganil. If this long gun is in the world, then the one who shot it is most likely the God King. Odin. Phil Coulson walks over with the SHIELD internal notebook. The flowing subtitles are interwoven into a data model, which is exactly what Phil Coulson said. It turns out, SHIELD, which is supported by technical data from more than 90% of countries in the world, still has something in the data department. The power from the God King. Nick Fury had a gloomy face, trying his best to analyze the reliability of the information. But soon, he doesn't have to spend such energy, because it's on the broadcast screen. Lord appeared, saw light and shadow descended from the sky, piercing through the bifrost of the 9 realms, and a figure stepped out again, dressed in mighty mystical armor. Although it looks a bit old on the outside, there is a terrifying aura emerging from its body, as if it came from a prehistoric wild beast, with a golden light shining in its one eye, and it stretches out its hand and raises it downward. Kunganir turned into a meteor and returned, shining dazzling light in his hands. Stand in midair. Not even a word was said, but the terrifying arrogance made everyone speechless and suppressed the audience. Father, God King, Thor, Sif, and the 3 warriors of Asgard bowed their heads one after another. The flames of hell burning on Johnny's body seemed to be a little wilted under Odin's power. He has just taken up the role of Ghost Rider not long ago. Obviously not an opponent of a veteran-level godfather like Odin. Ooh, Odin. The great god Odin really appeared. I'm going. There really are gods in the world? And are they Norse gods? Myths aren't conjectures. Oh my god, how could a majestic god king end up because of the Fountain of Youth? The effect of the contained object is so powerful. Even gods can't resist the charm of the contained object. It's so cool. It's just a containment object, and God King Odin has already made a move. Judging by the number, there are at least 500 pieces in the foundation. Oh my god, it's amazing! Then Odin appeared. What is even more shocking is that Odin, the great god and legendary, will also appear for the contained items recorded in the foundation. And follow what is described in exposure. The foundation does not describe the Fountain of Youth as powerful. Straightforward description, even some understatement, just such a containment, actually let Odin fight. At this moment, the mysterious image of the foundation instantly became infinitely higher in the hearts of countless people. Odin chases the Fountain of Youth. The foundation doesn't care about the Fountain of Youth at all. Under the strong contrast, needless to say too thoroughly, you understand everything. However, no one is curious. The great god Odin has made a move. Will the Hell King or something appear? It sounds pretty strong, right? The motorcycle-riding skeleton under him can fight Thor. The weak voice is not conspicuous in the barrage, but it has attracted a lot of attention. Chapter 037, The Weight of the Supreme Mage. The Real Fountain of Youth. Hell, Odin. M.O. Faith looked at the figure of Odin in the picture, with deep fear in his eyes. If in hell, in their own field, fighting Odin, he is absolutely worthy and even has a lot of confidence. But if the battlefield is placed outside, it's just a Fountain of Youth. It's not worth it. Moto Faith shook his head. After all, he still gave up the idea of entering the earth himself and going head-to-head with Odin. Since he couldn't steal the chicken, he just gave up and procrastinated, which was never in his character. Unlike Odin, he was born in hell, so he didn't have to worry about lifespan for a long time. The Fountain of Youth was not that important to him. At least, it wasn't worth his risk to fight Odin. Above the oasis was invisible wave spread. It was as if a bucket of hot oil had been poured on Johnny's body, and the fire of hell burst into the sky. The raging fire made it difficult for people to see the real situation. When the fire disappeared, even people and cars disappeared in the open space. Going away, Odin's gaze remained unchanged, as if he had expected it. The majestic figure walked towards the Fountain of Youth. Now no one can stop him. Those weapons on Earth aimed at the oasis. A spell of divine power poured out, and the bloom of Odin's power directly isolated the oasis into a place outside the world. Asgard. It's not a purely classical country. Their technological power combined with magic is far more advanced than the surface civilization on Earth. General, all our weapons are misfired. The Major General with the epaulets had a gloomy face and dialed the communication number of his superior. Target, unable to aim. Target disappeared from positioning. The radar post was in a panic. Can't lock position, nukes can't launch, laser guidance can't work. Target disappears from radar lock. Panicked voices sounded from all over the world. All the big killers that had been prepared were useless. Could not find aiming target. No matter how powerful the weapon is, it's just a toy, so you can't fire randomly and attack without a target. Mutant Academy. The one who succeeded this time is actually the great god Odin. Professor X had a surprised expression on his face. I didn't expect to be able to witness the appearance of a mythological figure with my own eyes. It was really an eye-opener. Will the gods also covet the containment? And judging from the description, it's still the kind that the Foundation doesn't pay much attention to. This is really surprising. Gotham City God? Humans never need God. Bruce frowned. Like a bat appearing in the night, the eyes are extremely firm. Perhaps, can I also try to touch the next contained object? Scarlet, which Wanda blinked. Seeing the scene of Odin reaching out to the fountain of youth excitedly, she suddenly felt that the contents seemed very interesting. Oasis, just when everyone thought the dust had settled. Where the fountain of youth appeared. It's Midgard. A cold voice sounded. Ancient One stepped out of the firelight through the portal. The yellow hooded robe was a bit too simple compared with Odin's cumbersome armor, but the extraordinary's refined temperament was not weak at all. Ancient One, from his debut to the present. Odin, who has always been with the old gods and overlooked all living beings, finally changed his face. A look of fear appeared in the golden eyes. If, among the known strong men in the Nine Realms, there are existences that make him afraid, and the Ancient One that controls the Eye of Agamotto is undoubtedly one of them. Bottomless magical practice. Absorb the power of all major dimensions to feed back yourself. The power of Time Gem has been mastered by her. Go back in time, reset the battle if you disagree, treat people as bosses. She can lose countless times and start over at any time. You only need to lose once, and you have to be hung on the wall. Among the level Godfather powerhouses, Ancient One may not be the strongest, but it is definitely the toughest. The share of the Fountain of Youth. I give you a share, as a gift to the land of Midgard. Said it was a gift. In fact, it is almost the same as the protection fee. Bankruptcy, stay safe. This is Odin's choice. He doesn't want to fight anyone. He doesn't want to fight with Ancient One. This guy is too skinny. 2 copies. Ancient One's expression was majestic and motionless. Good. Odin gritted his teeth and agreed. But first satisfy Asgard's equal share. No one knows that the spring water of the Fountain of Youth is enough for several people. Odin definitely needs to ensure that he and the silly elder Thor are sufficient before they can be divided outwards. Just like this trickle, it doesn't look like an unlimited supply. Ancient One nodded, knowing that this is Odin's limit, holding the Eye of Agamotto in her hand. Even if the long river of time is polluted, it is still easy for her to peek into the short-term future. She has simulated thousands of methods, and this is the most concise and efficient one. She, Ancient One, Negotiator, SHIELD, Gulu. This is the weight of Supreme Mage. Nick Fury couldn't help swallowing, with fear in his eyes. The emphasis on Ancient One has been raised upwards. The great god Odin can inadvertently abolish 99% of the Earth's technological means, making it impossible for the proud technological attacks to even aim, and the short-range guns are directly misfired. An Ancient One, with just one sentence, he can get 2 copies of the Fountain of Youth from him. The weight of the Supreme Mage. Need I say more? Inside pocket space. Tisk, is it over? Lin Xiu smacked his lips. He doesn't care who gets a Fountain of Youth anyway. He will always earn the most money. Even if Odin successfully acquired the Fountain of Youth, the spring water inside would be enough for at most 5 people to use for a long time, which is not at the same level as his gains. What he has in his hand is the real one. SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. Chapter 038. Doomsday Containment. Is it going to be cold in small days? Ding. Containment of SCP-006 successful. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the real SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. Clatter. A trickling spring pokes its head out of the void. Compared with the inconspicuous place on the desert oasis, the spring in front of Lin Xiu is obviously much larger, at least to the extent of crushing the former several times. True SCP-006 Fountain of Youth. After consuming the spring water, you can gain the characteristics of eternal youth, speed up cell division and repair, exempt most viruses and toxins, maintain the peak posture of the body for a long time, and never age. Note: no need for long-term use. A single serving is effective. After choosing the station, it will draw energy from the void, slowly expand the spring, and increase the scale of the spring. Different from the version in Odin's hand, it needs to drink from the Fountain of Youth for a long time to achieve the effect of eternal youth. Once the spring water is interrupted, it will soon be returned to its original shape. The full version in Lin Xiu's hands is the real one-and-done solution. Once taken once, it will be effective for a lifetime. Pretty Lin Xiu clapped his fists with a smile on his face. Regardless of whether they fight life or death, anyway, the biggest beneficiary in the end is themselves. You may make a small profit, but I will never lose money. Ding! Containment of SCP-006 complete. Do you want to start drawing the fifth container? Whether Lin Xiu, who glanced at the progress of the training of the hate team, turned his head and heard the system prompt sound. Lin Xiu undoubtedly chose OK. The majestic figure slowly came from the void, with extremely strong malice and aggressiveness, and the mighty vitality flowing from the body was like a vast ocean, so huge that it made one's heart palpitate. Tisk, a real big guy. Lin Xiu smacked his lips with a bit of surprise in his eyes. His gaze stayed on Little Peanut for a moment. Then he turned his head and looked for the place to drop it on the map. Well, then here it is. Monsters or something are more suitable in this kind of place. Lin Xiu quickly chose a place. In the island country in the vast sea, didn't you always like the drama of monsters landing? Lin Xiu is so kind, definitely decided to satisfy them. I just hope that they can resist this gift and don't kneel too badly. Unlike the harmless Fountain of Youth, the containment that descended this time is absolutely doomsday-level horror and has the characteristic of infinite proliferation. If it is not discovered early, the consequences will be disastrous, and it is definitely impossible to put it in a remote area. Something has to be borne by someone, and Lin Xiu can only choose a place with the best style of painting desert oasis. On the shattered green land, it seemed that some powerful force forcibly tore away a section, leaving only dark and deep tunnels, like ugly scars. It can be confirmed for the time being that the danger here should be lifted. A large number of agents and soldiers circled around the abyss that Odin shot out for a long time and finally figured out the inside. The abyss stopped in front of the G-hole mantle and did not penetrate the core of the earth, so the danger was not as great as imagined. Do you deliberately keep your hands? Tony frowned, looking unhappy. Odin obviously had some scruples to stop. That's why he didn't shoot to penetrate. In other words, if it wasn't for the fear of ancient one mage and unknown power, the opponent would definitely have the strength to penetrate the world. I need stronger power. Tony clenched his fists tightly. The speed of the battlesuit's research and change was really too slow. But Tony looked up solemnly. On the sky, a brand new countdown begins to come again. Time waits for no one at all. Countdown to exposure of the fifth containment item. 12 hours and 59 minutes. What? Father, you let me stay in Midgard? Thor stared at Odin with wide eyes. That's right. Odin nodded. Sif and the others will go back with me, so you can stay in Midgard and practice hard. In the era of chaos, it is the time for individuals to stand out bravely. Now that the Fountain of Youth is in his pocket, and he doesn't have to worry about aging, death, and exhaustion, Odin's course of action towards Thor has obviously changed. If he likes to fight, then fight. As long as he is strong enough, he can still fight for the sky. Without the trouble of lifespan, Odin's style of doing things has slowed down a lot, taking it easy. That organization seems to be called SHIELD, a disciple of Ancient One. He was sent to that organization, right? Odin whispered softly. As an opponent, Ancient One is definitely an extremely difficult jellyfish. But as a partner, her choice is absolutely reliable, and her reference value is quite high. It was decided to leave the silly boy in Midgard. It is definitely impossible to have no plan. Various containment items are frequently released, which leads to an unknown number of strong people. Midgard is not safe. New containment? Looking up at the countdown on the screen, Odin's eyes were burning. Good stuff. Odin, who was originally just watching the show outside the venue and had little interest in these things, has been completely captured by the power of the contained objects. Countdown. 8 hours and 32 minutes, SHIL. The director, someone is here. Phil Coulson knocked on the door without saying a word and came in with a strange expression on his face. That Thor, who claims to be from the gods of Asgard, wants to join us. Shield clatter. Phil Coulson's voice fell. There was a sudden chaos on the field. Just now, that Thor who swayed thunder, and his father almost shot the earth, actually wants to join SHILD on his own initiative? Nick Fury said that he never dreamed of such a beautiful thing. Quick, go and bring him in. No, I'll go find him myself. Nick Fury's face was ecstatic among a series of bad news. Finally, there was one that made him happy. Is this Thor joining SHILD? This is obviously an alliance between the Norse gods and the Earth. Dan's flexible mind can already think of how to pull his father Odin into the water from Thor after the occurrence of force majeure. The mighty power that runs through the Earth is frightening as an opponent, but as a companion, it is a power that makes people feel at ease. The happy marinated egg suddenly felt that the constantly beating countdown on the screen was not so dazzling. Countdown to exposure of 5th containment item. 6 hours and 30 minutes. Somewhere in Hell's Kitchen. Your mission has failed. Moto Faith's cold voice was transmitted to his ears through the contract, exuding a pungent sulfur smell. Next time I will definitely succeed. Johnny gritted his teeth. Ghost Rider's almost immortality made him resist the erosion of hell. Maybe. Moto Faith was non-committal, looking at the new countdown. Odin is back on top, looming in an alliance with the Ancient One, and Earth has become even more dangerous for him, but also speaks to the dire opportunity within. New containment. It's really exciting. Odin can use this power to get stronger. So, can he? Definitely. Chapter 039. Immortal, invincible, indestructible lizard. Metropolitan City. Do you want to start? Superman knocked the evil villain away with his fist, watching the countdown to the end on the sky. The expression is dignified. Stand by. Before the answer is revealed, no one knows what terrible things will come. Superman, who has always felt that he is invincible and carefully controls his power so as not to cause irreparable consequences to the Earth, can only look at the screen in the sky to express deep awe. Awe of the unknown. Foundation. As a partner in justice, he is not like Bruce, who instinctively suspects all others. Superman still has a good impression of the Foundation that announced the confidence of the contents at this moment, so that the world can prevent it in advance and avoid a greater crisis. Superman looked at the screen as always, with a bit of expectation in his eyes. New content is coming soon. Exposure countdown. 0 hours and 59 minutes. Military. Every department is in place. Space-based satellites have locked onto the world and are ready for action at any time. In the central control room, densely packed screens are lit up. In addition to the countdown that keeps jumping, is the screen of locking the world and monitoring abnormal occurrences. Bases and outposts all over the place are ready to call back information at any time. The exaggerated amount directly covers more than half of the Earth. As for the rest, that belongs to the ancient Oriental country. Ding. Time to 0. Exposure. The 5th containment item SCP. 682. Immortal Lizard. The countdown is coming to an end. The pitch-black screen suddenly lit up. In the dim light, a ferocious and ugly monster wriggled on the ground. The whole section looks like the sharp-mouthed sawtooth of some kind of terrifying beast. The body is winding and slightly long. On the dark body, There are traces of surging joints. It looks like some kind of reptile lizard, but the body is 3 to 5 meters long. Among ordinary lizards, it is definitely considered top-notch. The immortal lizard? That's it. Doesn't it look like a large lizard? The name is very domineering, but it doesn't look very good. It feels so weak. The panacea, the fountain of youth. Look at how simple these names are. I didn't expect the foundation to be a headline. The moment the contents were exposed, all kinds of comments on the internet rushed out. Many people were disappointed in their expectations. It was only a lizard of 3 to 5 meters, and the gap between them and the abnormality they expected was too great. Only a few sane people can keep thinking, and most people follow the trend in speech. Military call. Looks like I can breathe a sigh of relief this time. The army general with a tense face let go of his tightly clenched hands. It's just a monster. He has great confidence in the weapons of the Empire. Even prehistoric monsters and behemoths are bound to shatter under heavy guns. It's only 3 to 5 meters in size, so don't worry about it at all. He doesn't believe that when space-based weapons or even nuclear bombs are dropped, this monster can still maintain its indestructible reputation. Under the increasingly crumbling worldview, the top military leaders have long been aware of the use of large-scale nuclear weapons. Even locally, indestructible evil lizard, it will be the Empire, the first anomaly to annihilate. On the old face of the army general, his gaze was as firm as iron. General, I think, can the target of annihilation be changed? A weak voice sounded in the tense conference room. Raised hands. He pointed at the screen tremblingly. The young major general seemed to see something incredible on his face. Huge, majestic, cannot imagine. A gigantic monster like a hill appeared in the picture. The figure of hundreds of meters is comparable to a skyscraper, and the car parked next to him is like a child's model toy in front of him, just wriggling forward on the ground. As if the ground was shaking, his existence was a kind of terror. Damn it, brother. Who are you? If it weren't for the scruples about the wrong occasion, the people in the monitoring room would immediately swear. That what it is. The army general, who was full of confidence just now, was suddenly startled. His eyes widened, and the eyeballs almost popped out. The lizard, which was only 3 to 5 meters tall just now, transformed into an indescribable monster when it turned its head. For some people with giant phobia, it could be scared to death. And this mountain-like figure is still climbing upwards. From top to bottom, the word horror is expounded. SCP-682 is a huge reptilian creature with unknown origin, possessing extremely high intelligence. Object Class: Keter. This creature has extremely high speed, strength, and reaction ability, and is hostile to life forms. It can obtain energy from any substance it ingests, whether it is organic or inorganic. Can obtain organic substances from any solution. Regenerate. Ability and adaptability are extremely amazing. Even if the body is destroyed, it can still move and communicate. Horrifying adaptability and resilience endowed him with almost endless life. No known method can completely destroy him, and he can regenerate infinitely. Note: this creature must be eliminated as soon as possible. Otherwise, after devouring energy, its body size will continue to expand, and there is no upper limit for growth. I rely on it. After exposing information about SCP-682, the dense barrage on the internet was instantly swamped by barges from all over the world. An exaggerated description makes one's scalp tingle. It cannot be destroyed by any known means, and it can continue to devour energy to expand and grow. There is no upper limit for growth, and it can grow infinitely upwards. Sooner or later, the Earth will be wiped out and expanded into a planet. This cannot be said to be powerful. It is simply invincible. Hopeless wash and sleep, take a shower and reopen, and you won't come in the next life. As for doubts, at the beginning, it was only 3 to 5 meters high, and then it grew to the level of a 100-meter-high building. Isn't this enough for a stone hammer? This terrifying growth rate is simply chilling. Little Day's exception response. A group of high-level officers of the Metropolitan Police Department sat cross-legged, looking at the picture on the screen all terrified. Although the monster land is often promoted internationally, it is all for the development of culture and creativity. Who would like this kind of thing with a brain? The little territory in the childhood is not enough for him to squeeze his teeth. Not enough things often backfire. The most worrying thing is always the easiest to happen. Minister 4 Islands, that place, that seems to be our Shizuoka Island. Point to the screen. The middle-aged police department was occupied by horrified eyes, and his distorted face seemed to see a nightmare coming. The wind blows. The wig fell off the head. On the bare Mediterranean Sea, there is a bit of coolness, but he didn't feel it now. A greater horror has come. The exposed SCP-682 landed in Shizuoka, his hometown. Chapter 040, Nuclear Explosion. The days of being reduced to monster rations. Gulu. The sound of swallowing saliva sounded from the countermeasure platform one after another, and the frightened eyes seemed to form a substance. Even the little days. Known as Oda Nobunaga alive, Kaido Okawada, who was fanatically regarded as the leader of the radical faction by countless people, couldn't help shaking his body. The shape of this monster was based on a lizard, a body that is hundreds of meters high. That is to say, a full 1,000 meters in length is simply an upside-down mountain range. This terrifying behemoth has landed on the land. He seems to have seen Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the two disasters that broke out will be repeated in Shizuoka. The most important thing is, back in the day, there were no local nuclear weapons. With their nuclear potential, they can indeed produce nuclear weapons in a month. But a month later, look at the speed at which this monster devours and grows. Whether or not there will be a small day at that time is still a matter of course. Let the self-defense forces and the guards all attack and intercept at all costs. Tell them, the rise and fall of 20 million people are all in their hands. A terrified roar rang through the comm, instantly spread throughout the country's armed forces. Among the frightened crowd, someone pressed the fear and dialed the contact number. On the other side of the phone, definitely, is their old international father. Military what? SCP-682's location locked. The high-level executives who were still checking the location of the contained objects through the monitoring screen were shocked. It took only a cup of coffee for the accident to happen, and the intelligence department was so powerful to find the target so quickly. Forehead. It's the self-defense force officer from Xiaotian who sent a request for help. The orderly wiped his sweat, a little embarrassed, handed over the encrypted telegram. Little days. While asking for help, let's not throw nuclear bombs lightly. The general frowned. Then, do we need to send troops to attack? The major general next to him frowned. The immortal lizard in the video is definitely not a common character. The ability of immortality is hard to say, but the terrifying growth rate is really frightening. In just a short moment, the body with a height of more than 100 meters inflated by half, and the black shadow covering the sky and the sun is even more powerful. Send troops. Let the aircraft carrier near the sea swim and dispatch all the fighter jets. No matter what, he is also his own little brother. Although a little restless, you can beat him with your fists. This time is the perfect opportunity. The nuclear bomb? Do you want to cancel it? Or reduce the yield? No. The plan continues. In the event of an accident, immediately release the maximum equivalent. The general's firm voice was full of murderous intent. The shadow they contained was too great, and they, who were in high positions, definitely refused to take risks. Who knows if this thing continues to expand, and it will spread across the ocean and land. As for the aftermath of the nuclear bomb, anyway, this is not the first time for them. They have experience. Sure, it can be handled. Have you found a place yet? Professor X frowned. The ever-expanding immortal lizard made him feel terrified. Currently, it can only be locked on a small day according to local customs, and the exact location cannot be determined. Kinnu raised her head with a dignified expression. Not sure yet. Professor X sighed. For other countries, their control is not as strong as that of the Empire. Judging from the development of the situation this time, they are afraid that they will not be able to catch up. But there seem to be a few mutants from the Asia-Pacific region in the Academy. Storm Girl hesitated to speak. Spear Bureau, little days. Puff. A few uncontrollable sneers came from the solemn venue. Be serious. It's a global disaster anyway. Director Zheng Xian patted the table. With a serious expression on his face, there was a bit of joy in his eyes, but he quickly restrained himself. Little days, Shizuoka. Boom, boom, boom. Roaring artillery fire bloomed in the streets. Light and heavy machine guns and various armored vehicles were all carried out to the front line. As for the nearby residents, under the emergency evacuation, those who had not had time to evacuate basically became the fertilizer of the immortal lizard. Ayakawa Police Department. It's completely useless. That's just a monster. Panicked voices sounded from the armored vehicle position. Not only the soldiers, but even the faces of the officers were filled with horror. It is of no use at all, whether it's metal torrents or long guns and short cannons. All kinds of heavy weapons poured on it. In a short period of time, the ammunition consumed was already equivalent to the national wars of some countries in the Middle East. This exaggerated consumption not only did not cause any impact on the opponent, but also became the opponent's wealth. Swallowing the energy in the metal and shells, it continued to grow, almost doubling in size. Woo woo woo, the piercing siren sounded. Shanghua's fleet has arrived, although it is humiliating to rely on the army stationed by Yingjiang to protect the country. But in the face of their lives, it is obvious that more people choose reality, and it is not their turn to do seppuku or something. Hateful. The Ayakawa Police Department had a gloomy face. The more cheering the subordinates cheered, the more indignant the torment in her heart became. But in the dark, he was obviously relieved. However, result? FK, Yingjiang made a move. Aircraft carrier CVN-66, that is Nimitz class. Yingjiang is the highest level aircraft carrier in service. This is too cruel. It's too cruel to station such a big killer in the small day sea area. Your father is your father. No, that's not right. That monster is even better. The aircraft carrier can't even do it. My God. It's fake. This kind of regenerative ability, is there really a weapon on Earth that can solve it? Online. After the appearance of the aircraft carrier, the dumbfounded people feasted their eyes on a feast of modern military weapons. Eagle Sauce's high-tech weapons scared countless countries. But what is even more frightening is the immortal lizard. All kinds of horrible attacks, new weapons, devastating attacks. No matter how badly it falls on it, it can quickly recover within a blink of an eye, and it can also devour all kinds of organic matter and inorganic matter to grow its body. Once hit, not only is it not damaged, the huge body has also grown a lot visible to the naked eye. And damn, that direction. What does it want to do? Some netizens from the small days. There are also experts and scholars who have a little understanding of nuclear architecture. Watching the content broadcast on the screen, their pupils shrank. Stop. Come and stop it from stopping. They slapped the keyboard frantically, trying to prevent the tragedy from happening before their eyes. However, boom, Tong Tian's groundbreaking bang erupted in front of his eyes. Across the silent screen, it seemed that the deafening explosion could be heard. Chapter 041. Can magic hold the immortal lizard? Tony's big plan. Gotham City brush. Bruce got up from his seat suddenly. His frown was about to twist into Sichuan characters. Unexpectedly, erupted, there was a bit of horror on Bruce's solemn face. That piercing logo is nothing else. It is a nuclear power plant. Looking at the scale of the explosion on the screen, even if it is not comparable to the release of nuclear weapons, it will not be much different. The third nuclear explosion. Coincidentally, it detonated again on a small day. As if history repeats itself. The vast islands in the sea seem to have a different attraction to nuclear weapons. Mutant Academy. Professor, I think we can locate the location. Kinu's expression was a little stiff. The small days area is cumbersome, and it is difficult to lock the location in a short period of time, but the number of nuclear power plants in their territory is definitely not many, or even very few. Through the general characteristics of the sea area, the location can be quickly locked. Not only them, but experts who are proficient in geography can analyze it in minutes. Military. Has the nuclear power plant been breached by that monster? The young Major General had a horrified look in his eyes. It's the immortal lizard. The colleague next to him corrected him. But all eyes. From the beginning to the end, he never left the screen, staring at the rising smoke cloud in the picture. Hope could not help but rise in my heart. Meeting, is this the end? This is an explosion of a nuclear power plant, and the impact is immeasurable, especially the indestructible lizard, which bites through itself, and the damage it receives at a negative distance is not even much weaker than a nuclear bomb in the face. The high-yield nuclear bombs that were ready to go were all stuck on the silo, waiting for the next scene. Click it, click it, click it, crawling out of the ruins, biting the mechanical ruins. The ferocious figure of Bu Mienya, she clearly defeated everyone's delusion. When the whole cards they were proud of failed, their inner self-confidence was directly shattered. Should we continue to drop nukes? In the eyes of everyone present, there was a look of fear and uneasiness. All that answered them was a deep silence. Ing Zhang's invincible arrogance was completely overwhelmed. It's terrifying. Doesn't nuclear radiation have any effect on him? Indestructible evil lizard. Indestructible. This level of immortality, can anyone really solve it? Just kidding. A monster of this level, after seeing the immortal lizard crawling out of the ruins, the internet instantly exploded. All kinds of negative remarks are rampant. Nuclear doomsday can still rely on fortifications to hide in the ground, but once this monster develops, it will definitely eat up the Earth. The perverted ability destroyed everyone's defenses. Don't worry, there's a turning point. The Avengers Alliance is here. It's the Avengers. In a barrage of mourning, the red-hot remarks flashed across, instantly attracting the attention of many die-hard fans in the billowing cloud of smoke. Surrounded by endless scorched earth, the vitality was completely destroyed and turned into a wreck that could not bear to look directly at, just like the Hell and Legendary. Fila, the aperture keeps expanding from nothing. Dr. Strange, who opened a portal on the ground, came out with other members of the Avengers Alliance, although I have Agamotto was still on Ancient One, just in case. He had already put on the cloak suit. It's all deliberately concealed by those high-level officials. Seeing the scene of natural disasters crossing the border in front of him, Captain America frowned, with a rare expression of anger. If only they could come as soon as they heard the news. They might be able to stop the havoc. Haven't they always been like this? Black Widow curled his lips and didn't care. With those guys' greedy character, he has long been used to it. Facing such a terrifying monster, he didn't want to seize the opportunity and take the opportunity to seize the flesh and blood for research. Danger? The real high-level people only have interest in their eyes. As long as there is enough interest, they can even sell their own twisted ropes. Everyone, instead of arguing about this, I think we should find a way to deal with this big guy first. Thor carries Mjolnir. His expression was rare and dignified. A monster of this scale, even on his way to conquer the 9 realms, is considered top-notch. Not only can he be killed, but he can also absorb material growth, which is definitely bad news for his profession, which is almost crazy warrior. Rumble amidst the roaring noise. A new round of battle slowly unfolded. This time, it's the collision of superpowers and monsters. Stark building prickly, the sound of mechanical roar kept ringing in the workshop. An unkillable monster? Tony looked up at the picture on the screen with a bit of horror in his eyes. That's right. He did not go to the battlefield this time. With a deep understanding of his own strength, Tony, who was meaningless even if he appeared on the stage, directly chose to stay at the base to improve and develop his own battlesuit. The current Mark battlesuit may be enough to deal with the common villains, but it is not suitable for the increasingly terrifying containment. It's useless at all. If you don't strengthen your strength, you will only be abandoned by the times. I need stronger power. Tony stared at the battle on the screen, but then lowered his head again for a moment and continued to fight hard. If humans cannot protect the Earth, perhaps with the help of mechanical power. As for the immortal lizard, he has already asked the good friend he just made. The strength of the other party should be enough to solve it. On the console, a dedicated pager flashed. Appears to have just ended the call. Small days, the battlefield. Hey, that cloak boy, are you sure you can control that guy? The thunder, surging on Thor's body, was a little sluggish. After the chaotic battle just now, the resilience of the immortal lizard hit him hard. Maybe Dr. Strange opened his mouth. It was his first show during the reset time of Ancient One. Although he traveled in magic for countless years, it was the first time he used it to fight against the enemy. Mirror space. Orange magic patterns bloomed on his hands, enveloping the immortal lizard in just a moment. Heaven and earth change. An upside-down space appeared under his feet, and the immortal lizard was pulled in by him. Next is go out. Doctor Strange wields the sling ring, trying to get out of the space. Tread. Take a step forward and return to the familiar scorched earth. Did it work? Captain America rushed over impatiently. Maybe it becomes. Before Doctor Strange finished speaking, his face suddenly changed. The magic power surging in his body seemed to be drained by someone in the air. The rapid consumption rate was like being installed with a dry machine. Not good. Run. Doctor Strange's pupils constricted and he roared angrily. The mirror space collapsed as if countless glass mirrors shot out, and they were about to hit the Avengers Alliance people. Whoosh! A powerful high-temperature ray descended from the sky, directly sweeping across all the debris, dissipating the impact into nothingness. Above the sky, Red's cloak rattled. The emblem on the chest is very eye-catching under the blue and yellow color scheme. Superman. Creek. Under Tony's remote call, they finally arrived. Chapter 042. The Blessings of the Earth Gods, the gun that runs through the world. Looks like I'm a little late. Looking at the scorched earth on the ground, Superman, who is full of justice, has a bit of self-blame on his face. Thermal vision conversion. From the extreme high-temperature rays to warm healing light waves, covering the injured Avengers Alliance members, the wounds injured in the battle began to be rapidly sterilized and stitched. Hey man, listen to me. That guy in the red cape looks cooler than you. Thor smacked Doctor Strange's shoulder knowingly. Both of them wore red capes. His name is Crick, Superman, and he should be our helper this time. Doctor Strange pushed Thor's big rough hand away. He and Creek had met each other and had a little friendship. This is not the time to talk, man. That guy's going crazy again. Thor's face darkened. The undead basilisk seemed to be eyeing the Mjolnir in his hand. He rushed forward on his own initiative. Roar, the ear-piercing roar is like a wild beast, from its appearance to the present. In just a few hours, the opponent's body has swelled to hundreds of meters in height, and its winding body is several thousand meters long, comparable to many large warships. Hateful. Thor gritted his teeth and fought. Superman bloomed with the solar energy in his body. Extreme heat ray burst out from his eyes, melting gold and melting jade. We're here too. Captain America threw out the vibranium shield. Barton drew his bow and arrow behind him, and Doctor Strange was brewing up his strength, trying to launch another large-scale magic bombardment, at least at the critical moment, to restrain him for a moment. Mutant Academy, can you win? Kinnu's expression was a little dignified. It's very daunting, but that Superman is really strong. Cyclops frowned. The moment Superman appeared on the stage, the explosive power of his thermal vision even felt stronger than his own most powerful laser light. An unkillable monster? Wolverine had a grim expression. He originally thought that his super regeneration recovery was strong enough, but compared to the recovery power of the indestructible lizard's nuclear bomb bath, it was nothing short of scum. It's hard to imagine. Is there really anything in this world that can destroy it? What if we were the ones who encountered this monster? Professor X shook his head. He didn't have the slightest chance of resisting the immortal lizard, and the most likely thing was to retreat directly. Unless, what if this monster appears in Asgard? Odin frowned tightly. The rune words hovered over Kunganir's gun body. One after another kept lighting up. It's that kind of situation. Perhaps he could only banish the containment to the frozen realm, trying to let the extreme cold suppress his growth. Or open the frozen box to seal it. It always feels unreliable. The same question rang out from the leaders of countless forces, or the powerful. Everyone thought in unison. What should I do if I encounter such a monster? But the bewildered result will definitely make countless people shudder. Zioqiang who can't be beaten to death, with endless resilience, ever-expanding body size, strong desire to attack and hostility. Even if his attack power is inferior to his heaven-defying resilience, it still doesn't detract from his terror. Known methods on the Earth. There is no way to kill him at all. Kamar Taj, will the mirror space be crushed and eaten? Ancient One frowned. Among level Godfather powerhouses, she has never been known for her attack power, and even advanced magic like mirror space can't do anything to the evil lizard. Most of the magic can't even tickle it. The terrifying size makes it difficult for Ancient One to get close. To hit the soul with one palm, you have to be close. Besides, it's hard to say whether this flesh and blood monster has a soul. SHILD, let Black Widow start Plan C. A mere member of the Avengers Alliance is far from enough for the opponent's monster. We need new helpers. Nick Fury had a dark expression on his face. The plan was just preset, but I didn't expect it to start so soon. Director? Phil Coulson had a hesitant look on his face. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by Nick Fury's voice. No choice. Delaying it any longer will only make the situation worse in a short period of time. The immortal lizard's swollen size has reached hundreds of meters, and its growth rate is simply frightening. Natasha Romanoff's expression froze during the battle. The apology on her face was fleeting. As a real agent, her execution ability is definitely the strongest. Thor, let your father help. We can't hold on. The tired body cannot support the battle. Both she and Barton are just common people without superpowers. Even Thor himself, under the confrontation of the undead lizard, his strength is almost exhausted, and he barely supports himself with a hammer. You can only watch the other party continue to grow. Damn it, could it be that the great god Odin is going to make a move? The spear that pierces the world must be able to crucify this monster. It must be possible. Witness the myth with your own eyes. Netizens who have seen Odin's terrifying blow obviously have a lot of confidence in him. After all, he is also a god king. Do you want to make a move? Frigga, the queen, touched Odin's body. It has to be done. Midgard is also part of the Nine Realms, and Thor is still there. Odin's expression was solemn. The power of Odin in his body was pushed to the limit, and the dusty destroyer armor quietly covered him. And the blessings of the gods of the earth bloomed. Kunganir in his hand blooms with aurora. Go all out. The oath that must hit is added. The runes and words all bloomed with brilliance, just like the death of Fixed Star. Meteor, run through the Nine Realms. Next moment, Odin's power was exhausted. He staggered and almost failed to stand still. His body was extremely weak, and all kinds of hidden injuries erupted instantly. Are you going to sleep again? Fu Lijia helped her up. Her eyes were a little worried. No, I still have it. Odin shook his head, took out a handful of clear springs to drink. The power of the fountain of youth grew in his body, and he remained youthful forever. He, who was freed from aging, no longer needed to use Odin's sleep to repair his body. This is also the reason why he dared to go all out. With all his Odin's power and the blessings of the gods blooming in the destroyer, Kunganir, who struck with all his strength, penetrated the Nine Realms in an instant, and the terrifying power was enough to kill the gods. Under the eyes of everyone's anticipation, in the broadcast screen, a flash of light suddenly appeared, directly piercing through the immortal lizard, and the flesh and blood on the body was directly annihilated into ashes under the pouring of power, leaving only the bare skeleton. The impact of spear throwing. It also caused the Earth's rotation orbit to shift. Instantly, countless waves poured into the sky. Is it over? Barton managed to stand still in the turmoil and asked countless people's worries. Chapter 043. Odin's Broken Halberd, Superman's Defeat, the World in Despair. Finish. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Thor shook his head, looking at the light flickering on Kunganir. He was the person who knew Odin the most on the field. The runes are still in full bloom. That means that Kunganir's attack has not stopped at all. Not to mention the end of the fight. I'm going to FK it, right? I'm not dead like this. Is there any end to it? What kind of monster is this? The Earth's orbit has been shifted. If the attack continues, this monster will not die, and our Earth will be cold. It's so terrifying, seeing the picture on the screen with wide eyes. The eyes of countless people are filled with disbelief and endless fear. Kunganul was crucified to the ground. The immortal lizard was pierced by the spear point, and under the mighty brilliance, the flesh and blood were annihilated into nothingness and disappeared, leaving only a white bone skeleton, just when everyone thought that the matter would end like this. ZZ flesh grows, and the sound of material devouring resounds from him. Large pieces of pitch-black flesh and blood grew out of the skeleton. Although Kunganir's burst of brilliance was constantly being annihilated, the immortal lizard was also growing, and his recovery rate was even getting faster and faster. Only the skeleton remained in the last second. In the next second, most of the flesh and blood grew out. Hiss-ho, a sky-shattering roar sounded from the monster, and the piercing sound was like a sonic attack. With a roar, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Kunganir, who had poured all of Odin's strength into it, was about to fail after barely suppressing a few snaps. The body of the gun was crumbling, and it was about to be broken free by the monster. In a gradually shattered brilliance, the immortal lizard even turned its devouring target to Kunganul. Click, click, click. The sound of unknown metal crunching was extremely harsh at this moment. Damn it, Eternal. The gun of eternity will be crushed and eaten by that monster. It's hopeless, it's completely dead. The God King's weapon is about to be abolished. What kind of monster is that? I don't want to die. The entire network collapsed, and the barrage was full of mourning songs, as if a white flag had been hoisted, especially the people of certain small days. Shizuoka, Yuanshima, those who are on the verge of the battlefield are fine. They're basically dead or injured, and a little further away, you can vaguely see the huge figure of the immortal lizard, and the unspeakable fear makes them crouch in the corner with their bodies hugged. This is different from what the special drama said. The monster appeared. Why didn't Ultraman come? What about Tiga? What about Light? Just when countless people looked up to the sky with full expectation. Their horrifying discovery. The sun in the sky seemed to be dimmed, as if it had been pulled away from some kind of brilliance. Little days. Scorched earth battlefield. Kunganir, who pierced through the immortal lizard, was on the verge of falling, as if he was about to be swallowed by a monster in the next moment. Thor swung his hammer angrily. The rest of the Avengers Alliance members are also on standby. Only Superman, opening his hands calmly, his body floated upwards, facing the dazzling sunlight in the sky, and the golden light burst out from his body, and he turned on the full power to the limit, absorbing the yellow sunlight in the sun. This is his strongest posture. Open your eyes like a god descending into the world. Since energy shock can't solve you, let me try pure power. Superman's deep voice sounded like a judgment from the clouds, thoroughly absorbing the sun's yellow light and mobilizing the power in his body. The attack he is now bursting out is no less than the sun's nuclear energy. The endless light and heat are bursting out with unimaginable energy every moment, after completely unlocking the restrictions and constraints. Even Superman doesn't know how strong he is now. Next moment, the iron-headed baby attacked and directly slammed into the immortal lizard. My God, buddy, you didn't tell me that he is so strong. Thor bumped into Doctor Strange next to him. His eyes widened. At that moment, he even felt the power emanating from Superman was more terrifying than his father Odin. It is simply a son compressed to the extreme. Midgard, how could he still have such a terrifying character? Doctor Strange looked blank. He also didn't expect that after Superman broke out completely, he actually possessed such terrifying power. Everyone's first thought when they saw him was definitely the sun. It's like seeing the sun. He held his breath, waiting for the result of the great collision between heaven and earth, not daring to make a sound. Not just the people on the battlefield. Even the audience who watched the battle through the screen couldn't help feeling anxious, like when watching a horror movie and dare not make a sound, they instinctively suppress their breath. Next moment, heaven and earth collide. Rumbling, The tremors from the earth were felt throughout the day. Like an earthquake, countless people rushed to the streets, trying to find an open shelter. Focal, 9.2 magnitude, the strongest earthquake ever recorded. The news from Shaotian Earthquake Monitoring Bureau instantly brought the matter to a climax. The epicenter caused by the aftermath of the impact nearly destroyed the entire small day. All kinds of natural disasters swept through. Storm, tsunami, volcano, endless destruction unfolded one after another on the island. In the center of the battlefield, the scorched earth has been completely smashed by Superman. The real sun can easily destroy the earth. After absorbing the yellow light of the sun and releasing the Superman, the aftermath of the attack is enough to destroy an island. The power exploded on the immortal lizard. As for the result, is it still useless? Seeing the solemn expression on Superman's face through the thick layers of dust and smoke, Thor felt something bad in his heart. It's an undead monster. It can't be solved at all. A rare sense of frustration appeared on Superman's face. He thought that his invincible strength would one day be defeated. The power enough to shatter a continent cannot destroy the immortal lizard. Hiss-ho! The loud noise of the immortal lizard seemed to penetrate the sky. All around, there was dead silence. Fell into boundless despair. Asgard, is this the gold content of the contents? There was horror in Odin's eyes. Even after personally experiencing the power of the Fountain of Youth, he couldn't help frowning when he saw the immortal lizard's dominance, and the strongest blow could only control him for a moment. The recovered Kungnir has become crumpled and has lost the name of eternity. Military, a deadly atmosphere spread across the center console. The people who were still proud and arrogant just now turned into quails in an instant, leaving only endless fear growing in their eyes. Such a monster. It is not human power that can stop it. Is it really hopeless? Can no one solve this stinky lizard? Solution? If we continue to fight, it's hard to say whether it will die or not. The Earth will definitely explode, and multiple plates will oscillate. I'm afraid the whole life will go back decades. Everything that gets close to him will be eaten, and it can't be killed. What kind of monster is this? An atmosphere of despair and pessimism is spreading in the world. The power of Superman and Odin undoubtedly showed everyone the extremes of magic and power. This kind of terrifying strength could not have any impact on the immortal lizard, letting him continue to expand. Is there any power on Earth that can stop it? Perhaps. We still have the foundation. Someone looked at the constantly rotating marker in the corner of the screen, as if they had discovered a new continent. Chapter 044. The Foundation. The Last Hope of Despair. Foundation. An organization that appeared in the eyes of countless people along with the exposure video. The power of the unknown is awe-inspiring. The screen in the sky alone, which cannot be erased by any force, has been explaining the strength and power of the Foundation to everyone at all times. No matter how weird the contained objects come, the video can also give relevant information in time, and it is extremely accurate. If it weren't for the information that was exposed in advance, the disaster that befell the containment would have been magnified at least 10 times or even 100 times. Faced with countless superheroes, SCP-173 is helpless. The Foundation just dispatched a team of Special Operations troops to solve it easily, and the calm and breezy attitude is enviable. Will you really make a move? Hope began to sprout in the hearts of the people in despair. Looking at the screen in the sky, countless people put their hands together and prayed. It will definitely, as long as the Foundation takes action, it will definitely be able to control that monster. That's right. That's what they exposed, and they definitely have a way. But that monster is so strong. If it continues to fight, the Earth is about to collapse. How can it be possible to stop him? It is a demon. Didn't they all say their own exposure information? Immortality cannot be killed. Then how to deal with it? Give up, hurry up, and be chic. The end of the world is here. The barrage of bullets on the internet was divided into two sides. There are some people who hold the banner of the Foundation, but more people are frightened by the indestructible evil lizard. Odin and Superman shot one after another, and the orbit of the Earth was shifted and the plates were turbulent. However, the immortal lizard remained unscathed and was reborn with full blood. The sky-defying posture pierced through countless people's defenses and made them truly appreciate the horror of the contained objects. Different from the previous scenes of small fights, the immortal lizard is a truly terrifying and huge natural disaster. The speed of devouring matter will eat up the Earth sooner or later. The ferocious posture has completely lost the confidence of countless people. Mutant Academy Foundation, the immortal lizard, can that organization really solve it? Professor X frowned. If so, in what form will the other party contain and suppress it? SHIELD Foundation. Nick Fury had a solemn expression, clutching the pager tightly in his hand, trying to find comfort from the cold touch. Let the members of the various branch bases prepare to assist. Stand by. In Nick Fury's eyes, a natural disaster on the scale of the undead lizard. Even if the Foundation makes a move, it must also be a battle between dragons and tigers, and the mighty aftermath will definitely cause an irreparable impact on the Earth. Odin and Superman's shots before are a lesson from the past. It is important to be fully prepared. Military on the center console. Many people have folded their hands and prayed. Even the always arrogant general of the army lowered his arrogant head like a defeated rooster. Is there an organization that knows all the information about the contents? Relieved Odin. Slowly opening his eyes, Jean Hui was a bit dignified. Not to mention anything else. This terrifying information gathering ability alone has already made Odin fearful. Perhaps is this originally a containment object? Just being controlled by the other party? Is it going to appear again? The face under the hood of Ancient One couldn't see the expression clearly. Among all people, the one who has full confidence in the Foundation is definitely Ancient One. The Ancient One, who has witnessed the future of them with his own eyes, is even more in awe of the power of the Foundation than Lin Xiu himself. Countless forces or strong men murmured the same name at the same time, and they are thinking about it. What about Lin Xiu, who became the center of the storm? He was looking at the screen tangled up, browsing the barrage on the internet, just like the common people. Do you want to make a move? Lin Xiu whispered softly, as if talking to himself. Can he deal with the immortal lizard? To some extent, this conclusion should be yes. From the Foundation's current containment and unlocked power, it is definitely difficult to deal head-on with the indestructible lizard. He can only recruit some special forces, but from a restraint point of view, Little Peanut should be able to scare it. Lin Xiu flipped through Little Peanut's document, which contained an interactive experiment with SCP-682. In theory, absolutely no problem. But risk? Lin Xiu had a gloomy expression. Although Peanut looks like a scary doll, after it enters the supernormal state, it is definitely a doomsday disaster that is more terrifying than the indestructible lizard, and its danger is self-evident. This is also the reason for Lin Xiu's hesitation. He really doesn't want to take risks unless it is absolutely necessary. But check it out now. He also had no choice. Just take a chance. A thousand-faced D-Class member appeared from a base, skillfully lifted Peanut into the helicopter. The special service team took the prepared things and landed one by one behind. Just in case, Lin Xiu also secretly ambushed the newly bred mutant tyrant team. Adopting a mutant version and using the Blacklight virus as a meme infection, the Blacklight tyrants all have the combat power to suppress Captain America and finally broke out at any cost. The infection at the cost of meme collapse can also bring their combat power to another level. The power of XK-class natural disasters is not just talk. Looking at the departing fighter group, from the corner of Lin Xiu's eyes, his eyes fell on the slogan in the corner of the base. We contain, we control, we protect. Buzz, buzz, the propellers turned, buzzing in the sky. Foundation's black technology. In terms of speed, it is absolutely top-notch, traveling countless distances in the blink of an eye and reaching the scorched earth of the small days. Hey, work, look at the sky. Another new force is coming. Thor's eyes lit up. In a downhill situation, it's always nice to have help, definitely. But why is that sign so familiar? Stupid, Thor scratched his head. Foundation. It's from the Foundation. Natasha Romanoff's pupils shrank, and she retrieved the contents from memory first. The Foundation has made a move. I knew they would definitely show up. The Foundation is our real hope. Familiar symbols reappeared, the storm swept the world, and the internet instantly boiled. However, no matter how noisy the outside world is, on the scorched earth battlefield, the Foundation's actions were still as straightforward as before. Tread, stepping out of the helicopter with firm steps. No matter how many times you've seen the groups of faces with expressionless faces in their faces, they still can't help but make people feel horrified. Unified pace. It's like it's already programmed. Heading towards the immortal lizard, there was no trace of fear on his face. Chapter 045. How many steps does it take to put an elephant in the refrigerator? Hey bro, that big guy is dangerous. Don't get too close. They had a deep understanding of the horror of the immortal lizard just now, and they crazily devoured everything close to it. The body of several thousand meters was like a slime monster, wriggling and devouring it continuously. Seeing the reckless actions of the D-Class personnel, Thor couldn't help but frown. However, his familiar character made him rush forward and stretch out his hand, trying to stop them from moving. However, before Thor approached, base, the icy blade suddenly appeared out of thin air, abruptly stopping in front of Thor. Zila, the flickering thunder light, is passively activated. Tens of thousands of volts of thunder splashed on the opponent, but there was no response, and he didn't even remember the sound. Thor, who came back to his senses, realized what was standing in front of him. The jet-black body is as strong as a bodybuilding champion, with exaggerated muscular style and metal texture, more like some kind of armor integrated with flesh and blood, and the blade that pops out of the wrist seems to be integrated with the body. His whole body was filled with cold, killing intent, as if it was just a masterpiece born for killing. Black light. Tyrant. So fast. Thor frowned. Even he was a little surprised by the other party's instant reaction, comparable to the most outstanding warrior in Asgard. In quantity, there are so many. Thor's pupils shrank. It was comparable to the strength of the most outstanding warriors in Asgard. How could there be so many of them under the Foundation's hands? A whole squad was entrenched behind them, as if they were just common soldiers. Glancing at Captain America out of the corner of his eye, Thor's expression was a little subtle. But soon, Thor noticed something was wrong. More than a dozen blacklight tyrants gathered, surrounded by combat teams, as if they were surrounded by something. The probe looked over curiously. Shit, what the hell is that? A horrifying appearance came into view, scaring Thor enough. Scary doll? What are you doing with that damn thing again? Thor, who had finally calmed down, had an unpleasant expression on his face. Anyone who looks at each other with this kind of thing should not be in a good mood. But Foundation members apparently did not respond to Thor's intentions. The mechanical action unfolded as usual, executing SCP-682 Immortal Lizard Containment Plan. Irrelevant people leave quickly. The voice from the mouth of a D-Class member. It was more like some kind of mechanical sound, cold and without any emotion. The Special Operations team held the magnetic storm rifle in their hands, and the blacklight tyrants also popped out their wrist blades. Senrin's fighting posture shows the attitude of the Foundation. Stark building, sure enough, its transformation, human cloning. Tony, who was buried in his work, raised his head and looked at the screen full of technology. It strengthened his inner thoughts even more. Humanity. Earth cannot be saved. The new era belongs to machinery. Military new power. The pupils of the top army officers shrank, and their attention was all on the newly emerging arms of the Foundation. Blacklight Tyrant. Although the face is blurred, it can still be vaguely seen that there is a lot of similarity in appearance with the D-Class members. Through technical comparison, it can basically be determined that it belongs to the same clone blueprint as those D-Class members. In other words, the opponent has the ability of mass-produced Blacklight Tyrant. Judging from the brief shot just now, the data model established by the Intelligence Department shows that the physical fitness of the Blacklight Tyrant is no less than that of the normal Captain America, and even exceeds it. The super soldier project they dreamed of for which countless resources have been invested, has not been realized. There are only a few accidents and incomplete bodies, but in the opponent's organization, they are mass-produced cannon fodder. This kind of frustration is really indescribable. SHILD, are you going to start containment? Nick Fury looked at the screen with a serious expression. A little cold sweat flowed out of his clenched fists, and he couldn't help walking out. He had already arrived at the analysis desk inside S.H.I.E.L.D. Numerous instruments and screens were operating by the staff to calculate various data. Monitoring anomalies around the world is also the daily work of S.H.I.E.L.D. Phil Coulson. Nick Fury clapped his hands and was about to call over Phil Coulson, who was next to him, but he was halfway through speaking, and he, who habitually glanced at the screen, instantly widened his one-eyed eyes. What's going on? On the pitch-black face of the marinated egg, there was a rare look of horror. Not only him, all the agents in the center console, and those who noticed the shocking change in the screen, were all shocked. Shit. Oh my God. Tell me it's not true. The field instantly became chaotic, and after the crackling sound, there were exclamations one after another. Even well-trained agents and trained staff are like this, not to mention the other common people in front of the screen. Damn, what did I see? The Foundation's containment method is actually like this? This is too outrageous. Is there such a showy operation? Let magic deal with magic. No, I'm just curious. Why is that guy so powerful? Online climax after another. The swarming barrage set off a frenzy like waves. In the broadcast screen of the screen, SCP-173, which had been escorted by the Special Operations Team, finally lifted the veil and, under the cover of the black light tyrant, directly carried Little Peanut to SCP-682. Once the puppet sculpture appeared, the immortal lizard, who was still invincible just now, soon let out a terrified roar. Roar! The sky-shaking roar reappeared. Compared with the previous catharsis, the current roar always feels a bit harsh. After Lin Xiu remotely controlled Peanut to lock the target. Next, it's the tearing part that I like to hear and see. After raging for so long, the Lord 682, whom he looked down upon, finally tasted what it was like to be beaten severely. Roar! After the Uncle 682 let out a few ear-shattering screams, he quickly curled up and hid aside, trying to stay away from Little Peanut, and was soon caught up, and a series of beatings broke out. It escapes, it chases, it cannot fly with its wings. No matter how fast Uncle 682 runs, Little Peanut can catch up in minutes. Not to mention, Uncle 682 has never been a monster known for his speed. Crooked Neck. After being caught by Peanut, he followed up with a series of attacks. Although Mr. 682 was too big, he couldn't use his neck-folding technique and couldn't achieve the killing effect. But obviously, Uncle 682 didn't dare to resist the vicious Little Peanut at all. Huge amounts of eyes showed fear, as if they were afraid of something. Don't dare to do it at all. Let Little Peanut attack it. There was only one scream that overshadowed the other, like the wailing of a devil resounding on the field. Even though he was beaten all over his body, he never thought of resisting, for fear that he would destroy Peanut during the struggle and provoke an uncontrollable existence. Can't afford it. I can't afford it. In repeated neck bending, Uncle 682 was beaten to bloody flesh by Peanut, and his body kept shrinking. Damn afraid? Is this monster afraid? There is something that can scare it? How powerful is that horror puppet? The horror doll is powerful? I think the Foundation is powerful. It must be the Foundation that gave it new powers. Am I the only one who noticed that the monster's body is getting smaller? I knew the Foundation would definitely be able to solve it. We contain, we protect. Foundation hail. During the screen broadcast, a shocking scene happened. All kinds of bullet screens emerge endlessly on the internet. At last, all gathered into a few exciting words. Earth. Saved. The battle slowly ended. Uncle 682's huge amounts of body fell to the ground. His head, neck, and body were covered with scars everywhere, and 682's body tissue was stained on Little Peanut's hands. In the process of quickly recovering from the damage, 682's eyes did not forget to fixate on Little Peanut. Distorted horror can be seen on the monster-like face. Next, immediately, a stun scene took place. How many steps does it take to put an elephant in a refrigerator? 3 steps. Open the refrigerator door, put the elephant in, and close the refrigerator door. The process of containing SCP-682 is the same. During the battle with Peanut, his body had returned to its original state, only 3 to 5 meters tall. D-Class personnel and Special Operations team quickly stepped forward. He took out the steel plate that had been prepared and covered him directly. Open the steel plate, loop over SCP-682, and close the steel plate. Finish. Chapter 046. Related to the Supreme Divinity. Ding containment succeeded. Thor, who stood by and witnessed this scene with his own eyes, seemed to hear the response of the mechanical program after the containment was completed from their mechanical actions. Flowing clouds and flowing water, it seems that the actions that have been rehearsed millions of times are staged. Simple and unpretentious. It seems that there is no difficulty at all. The simple and smooth movements are as simple as putting the elephant in the refrigerator. Simple hell. Thor couldn't hold it anymore. Mjolnir's constantly flickering thunder, as well as his body on the verge of exhaustion, all proved the horror of the immortal lizard. His father, Odin, had his hands full. Superman absorbs the yellow light of the sun, which is comparable to the attitude of the sun's nuclear energy. There's also scorched Earth covering hundreds of miles around. Earth off track. Everything is the trace of the fierce battle with the immortal lizard. The Foundation can contain the indestructible lizard so easily. It doesn't mean that the immortal lizard is weak. It can only prove in turn that the Foundation is really too strong. Strong has exceeded everyone's expectations. Midgard, such a terrifying organization, still exists. Or the opponent's base is not in Midgard at all, but the radiation range covers it. Thor had a horrified look in his eyes. This shock, it was even more shocking than Superman's full-strength burst. Even Asgard compared to them. Far less. Odin bowed his head sadly. Although he no longer wanted to admit it, Odin had to bow his head. The tip of the iceberg revealed by the Foundation had completely shocked this invincible god king who galloped through the 9 realms. Even if he had faced the celestial god group before, he didn't have such deep fears. Invincible. Odin, who once waved his knife at the Tenjin group angrily, chose to bow his head this time. Hope. He has goodwill towards the 9 realms. Odin of at the moment seems to be no different from the countless common people who pray for peace on the earth. Kamar Taj, did it really work? Ancient One had a look of amazement on his face. It has long been guessed that the matter will be resolved smoothly, but the scene of the Foundation's containment of the indestructible evil lizard was obviously taken aback by Ancient One, who actually used another containment object to fight the new containment object. Especially SCP-173 and she are still old acquaintances with the help of Eye of Agamotto. Ancient One has rehearsed thousands of ways to deal with SCP-173, but in the end it ended in failure. It is easy to suppress for a short time, but it is completely impossible to suppress it once and for all. And just like this, her helpless containment is as cute as a quail in front of the Foundation. It not only erased the aftermath of the riots, also, as the arm refers to, is directly used as part of strength. What a horrible organization. The expression of amazement on Ancient One's face became more intense. Suddenly, he thought of the majestic phantom he saw on the long river of time when he was spying on him before. All are unimaginable horrors, which make people feel horrified. Sorcerer Supreme? Wong put down a magic book in his hand and looked over worriedly. Fine. Ancient One shook his head, feeling an inexplicable throbbing in his heart. Maybe it's because I'm too tired. Ancient One stretched out his hand and pinched the center of his eyebrows. The touch near the pupil membrane was a little hard, like some kind of scales. But there are too many things. Ancient One obviously didn't care, just waved his hand and turned his eyes back to the screen. You must pay attention to rest. Even Holy Place cannot lack your protection, and you need to take action to resist the invasion of other dimensions. If something happens to you, the news will spread, and the Earth will definitely be targeted by countless demons and ghosts. Wong put down the things in his hands and helped him over with one hand. They have studied with Ancient One since they were young, and their entire family exists to serve the Supreme Mage. Don't worry. And Stephen, he is the most excellent of us. There was a smile on the corner of Ancient One's mouth, and his deep eyes were like a starry sky, filled with trust. Pocket space. Foundation base. Buzz with the turning of the propeller. The tranquility in the base is broken. Lin Xiu was finally able to completely let go of the anxiety he had been feeling all along. Fortunately, containment went smoothly. There were no surprises that he feared. Little Peanut's seal is very firm, and there is no sign of supernormal appearance. Perhaps it was also the strong appearance of the black light tyrant, which attracted the attention of many people. And the invincible image created by the Foundation made them afraid. No one dared to take a casual test, so the containment mission ended safely. D-Class members wearing the same overalls coordinated and orderly recontained SCP-173 into the room. It was only then that the heavy steel plate box was carried off from the largest helicopter. There is a special pipe on the side, and the black light tyrant is continuously pouring strong sulfuric acid into it to ensure that SCP-682 is in a weak state and prevent accidental riots. Ding! Containment of SCP-682 successful. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the controllable version SCP-682 Immortal Lizard. The expected reward. Lin Xiu didn't even raise his eyebrows. Just pull it. Pull out the phantom of the panel directly. Controllable version SCP-173 Immortal Lizard. Size huge amounts of reptiles. Any known means cannot kill him. It is highly aggressive to life forms. Possesses almost immortal characteristics, can devour energy and matter to grow from organic and inorganic matter, has almost unlimited growth ability, and has no growth limit. Owner Lin Xiu can control it under its normal state, lock the attack target, adjust the growth rate. Note, there seems to be some kind of power inside. After receiving the corresponding power infection, it will be injected with high-dimensional information and enter a new posture. Please use it with caution. Another supernormal state? Lin Xiu's eyes moved slightly, thinking of a certain version of Mr. 682. Smash! That's really troublesome. Anyway, it can also be related to the supreme divinity. Although its superior has been beaten to a residual blood, it is obvious that not everyone can touch porcelain. Lin Xiu raised his eyebrows and immediately decided to seal it up at the bottom of the base. A number of strong sulfuric acid injections has increased tenfold. Move Little Peanut's room to the side of Uncle 682 to facilitate communication at any time. Snapped. Lin Xiu clapped his fists and reached a decision within minutes. Ding! The host successfully contained 5 abnormalities, and the Foundation's authority was initially unlocked. New module loading Chapter 047. Thaumiel Twin Gods. Module loaded. Preliminary unlocking of Foundation permissions. Special meme. Thaumiel Twin Gods. Every dog has his day. A look of joy appeared on Lin Xiu's face. Just now, because of the supernormal threat from Mr. 682, the worries were swept away in an instant, especially when opening new modules. After watching a large block of horror power on the screen, the smile on the corner of Lin Xiu's mouth became a lot more real in an instant, and he could finally breathe a little easier with the heavy responsibility on his shoulders. Previous containment operations appeared safe, but in fact, only Lin Xiu knew that it was a tightrope walk at an altitude of 10,000 meters. Success, hello and me. If you fail, it's game over. He didn't have any means to turn things around. He could only sit back and watch the situation collapse, purely dancing on the tip of his knife. But now, finally the situation is reversed. Thaumiel the Twin Gods, the strongest spear and guardian shield controlled by the Foundation. It is also the Foundation's most powerful force among the 6 danger ratings, where they have the confidence to suppress all abnormalities. Lin Xiu has never been found in the exchange list of the Foundation before. Is a relationship not enabled enough? Tisk, Unfortunately, the authority is still a little lower. Lin Xiu smacked his lips. A considerable portion of the cascading data torrent is gray and unusable. Ding. Insufficient exposure value. Cannot be redeemed. Forcibly click. Only a pop-up window will pop up. Is exposure worth it? Lin Xiu's eyes moved slightly, and the ending was as expected. But the good news is that he doesn't have to worry about permissions. In the current Foundation, he is the only living person from the inside to the outside. He is the person with the highest authority by default, one of the 0-5 sequences, and the only one with absolute dominance in terms of authority. As long as the module is enabled, it is the default highest authority. Ding! Containment of SCP-682 complete. Do you want to open the drawing of the sixth contained object to expose and come? Whether Lin Xiu also wants to accumulate a large amount of exposure as soon as possible. It is used to activate the middle and high-level means in the Thaumiel meme and keep 1 or 2 cards in hand for emergencies. How could he refuse the opportunity with a large number of points in place? Resolutely click OK. Any moment of hesitation is disrespect for the new power. Light and shadow turn. What popped up from the screen was a silhouette, like the screen of an old TV, with snowflakes constantly falling on the screen, frame by frame faltering. With a feeling of distortion, it seemed that the appearance was deliberately blurred so as not to confuse people see clearly. Oh, it's actually it. Lin Xiu smiled lightly with interest. If it was before, I really couldn't solve it. But now, looking at the special meme that was just unlocked, Lin Xiu no longer has any worries. At this moment, he is also a confident person. Then the next thing to do is to randomly pick a time for an unlucky guy. This containment is a bit special. Distance and space don't mean much to it. Since it is impossible to place it in front of a certain character at a fixed point, it will not have much impact if it falls anywhere. Lin Xiu didn't hesitate and directly chose random arrival. Little days. Scorched Earth battlefield. It's really desolate enough. Thor scratched his head. This is almost catching up with the territory of the Flame Titan. Man, listen to me. You Midgardians are really good at weapons research, and you're almost catching up with dwarfs. Thor touched Dr. Strange on the shoulder. After a bloody battle, Thor, who was acquainted with each other, obviously had a better sense of Dr. Strange, and the two became familiar with each other somehow. Perhaps is this how the crazy warrior makes friends? By fighting. Ahem. I think it's about time we left. Dr. Strange wiped his nose in embarrassment, not knowing whether to cry or laugh at Thor's praise. Whether it's from the perspective of a surgeon or a magician, this kind of thing is not the category he is good at. Humanity and self-judgment are matters for philosophers. It's best to ask Black Widow next to him. Those agents who have relations with high-level officials must understand this topic better. Leave. Don't you need to deal with the scorched earth here? Thor frowned. The lingering radiation spread across the land, which had little effect on them with extraordinary power. But for common people, and Thor's supernatural power can also make him hear the wailing of countless human beings in the distance. Time is running out. Black Widow's cold voice sounded beside him, pointing to the screen in the sky. Ticking clock. The countdown began again, and a new storm had begun. How could they stand still? Countdown to exposure of the sixth containment object. 9 hours and 32 minutes. We want to return as soon as possible. Black Widow's expression was firm. This is where the agent is left. SHIELD also has a branch here. I'll stay. Barton drew his bow, retracting into a melee weapon. I'll be in charge of the aftermath. Take the time to go back and deal with the next shock. Young raised the communicator in his hand. It had been authorized by Nick Fury. That's all for now. Thor definitely has no objection that Midgard is not Asgard-affiliated after all. Then let's go. Dr. Strange nodded. With the hand wearing the sling ring, he waved outwards, and the flames splashed, directly opening a portal. Everyone from the Avengers Alliance followed behind him, stepping in one by one. Stark building, sir. The containment has been successfully resolved. Tony continued to bury his head in the fight, working hard without distraction, and all kinds of electric sparks rang out beside him. The plan in his mind, he already has a sketch. SHIELD, clatter. A torrent of data flows down from midair. Countless staff and agents are constantly typing on the keyboard in a space full of technology. The most central miniature. The reality is the loss of small days and the most eye-catching current situation of the Earth. What's the result? Nick Fury has a heavy voice. Most of the coastal territory of the island country was shattered, and most of the area was polluted by radiation, which must be cleared. Other areas suffered heavy losses, and the loss of personnel was immeasurable. Countless buildings were destroyed everywhere. The overall economy has set back nearly 50 years. Phil Coulson walked over with a pile of documents. Nick Fury nodded, indicating that he knew. He is not interested in these, and he has never lived in a small life, so he has no special feelings. What he cares more about is the Earth. Chapter 048. If you see it, you will be killed. You call that shy? The orbit has deviated by 7%, and we're trying our best to correct it. The tectonic plate is turbulent, leading to tsunamis and frequent volcanoes. We are cooperating with the Security Council to stabilize as soon as possible. Disasters occur frequently everywhere, but they are still generally under control. Sub-base agents, except for emergency missions and seed plans, all start to go out. When Phil Coulson pulled the information panel, a large number of models popped up from the side, pouring out a torrent of data. Nick Fury's stern expression softened slightly. At least, not the worst he had expected. Take care of the aftermath. Our time is running out. Nick Fury looked up, and the dazzling countdown on the sky was running out. Countdown. 5 hours and 58 minutes. Military, sir. Xiaoyan's emergency communication. Is it connected? A young major with epaulets came running in. Reject. The high command of the army had a cold face. They all suffered heavy losses this time. The battleships and aircraft carriers roaming outside the sea were targeted by the immortal lizard. Most of their combat power was destroyed, and countless fighter jets and missiles were lost. Connected? Connect the fart. It's not just here to ask for supplies. Now that the Empire can't even take care of itself, how can there be resource outflows, etc.? Just when he refused, the army general with a higher position above said, "Send a batch of obsolete military supplies and impending supplies." In these chaotic times, the Empire needs outside power. The vicissitudes of the eyes, like an old eagle, still have a sharp edge in their eyes. Obviously, he regards Xiaotian as a meat shield in front of him. Keep it by your side for emergencies. Squinting his eyes slightly to look into the air, worry couldn't stop rising on his face, and he couldn't see the previous arrogant appearance at all. It's about to start again. He sighed deeply with a breath of twilight. Countdown. 3 hours and 27 minutes. Spear Bureau in the deserted conference room. The superhero sat neatly on a seat. Unlike the dignified atmosphere in other places, watching the scorched earth battlefield broadcast on the screen, instead of showing any sadness, there was a bit of weirdness on the contrary. The corners of the mouths of many members couldn't help twitching slightly, as if holding back a smile. Ahem, you've almost got it. Anyway, it's a natural disaster. Zhang Xian patted the table. Don't let the weird atmosphere continue to spread. Well, even if you want to laugh, wait until you laugh in private, and act like me on the scene. Zhang Xian curled his lips. He was one of the members who held back their laughter. Okay, back to the topic. Response containment. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Xian pulled towards the holographic projection, and a large piece of data flowed down. All of the above are the information of the contained objects that have appeared and the development process after the arrival. The data is very detailed. It is the information shared by S.H.I.E.L.D. We will study together and try to find the rules. Looking at the time in the corner of the screen, Zhang Xian had a serious expression. I don't know how long their stability can last. Countdown. 1 hour and 30 minutes. Gotham City, Metropolitan City, Queens, Manhattan. From all over the world, all eyes are gathered together, nervously waiting for the countdown to end. Whether it is a superhero or a villain, none of them can ignore this terrifying power. Some people try their best to protect the peace, while others try to gain power from it as a shortcut to the sky. In the long-awaited eyes, the countdown pointer finally reached the end, and completely return to zero. Exposure 6 Containment Item SCP-096 Shy Man. The pitch-black screen lights up. A 2-meter-tall humanoid hovers over the east wall. The arms are seriously disproportionate to the body. It looks 1.5 meters long. The skin is completely free of pigment, and there's no hair at all. It looks kind of indescribably weird. The eyes are empty, and the eyes are absent, without the slightest expression, making people uncertain whether they are blind or normal. Besides, other facial features are highly similar to humans. Like some kind of slightly defective human being. It looks very docile. This time the containment does not seem to be a big threat. Is it finally safe? I'm almost scared to death. It should be fine. I have been curled up in the corner. No wonder the shy person is an introverted containment, right? A network like boiling water is rare and somewhat quiet. Whether it's the name or the appearance, the contained objects this time seem to be of the quiet type. Many people who were anxious and uneasy could finally breathe a sigh of relief. World-ending disasters come one after another, endlessly. Who can stand it? Is it safe? Nick Fury frowned. He wasn't letting his guard down so quickly, looking nervously at the follow-up of the exposure video. SCP-096 Shy Person. Object Class Euclid. When someone sees SCP-096 face, whether it's directly seen or a video, a photo, it will enter a sad state in the eyes. SCP-096 will cover his face with his hands, start screaming, crying, about 1. After 2 minutes, it will rush to kill anyone who sees its face. Note: SCP-096 has extremely fast speed when chasing and killing, from 35 kilometers per hour to unlimited. It is very shy, afraid of being seen by others. Shy? You call that shy? Looking at the description of the contents on the exposure video, Nick Fury is not feeling well. The shy way of this containment is to kill all the people who have seen its appearance. What kind of shyness is this? Nick Fury couldn't resist smashing the computer. Who taught you how to write entries? Such an outrageous name is too confusing. Good evening, Brothers Chapter 049, Global Warning. Don't look up at the sky. Unlimited speed. After being shocked by SCP-096 shy way of prescribing, Nick Fury was quick to notice its labeling speed. The starting speed of 35 kilometers per hour did not surprise him much. But unlimited growth rate. How do you look at this thing? How outrageous. Shouldn't it really be able to exceed the speed of light? Nick Fury muttered to himself. He couldn't believe it, but the Foundation's exposure and its usual plain and unpretentious style made him unable to question it. The exposure and arrival of various contained objects at the information level did not miss a bit. If you say omnipotent, you will be omnipotent. If you say you will not grow old, you will not grow old. If you say you will not die, you will not die. Honesty would put countless TV pitches to shame, etc. It's not right. Nick Fury, who was still guessing the upper limit of SCP-096 speed and thinking about the solution, finally found the blind spot. Whether you see it directly or see it in photos or videos, it will enter a sad state. Then, start killing. Photos? Videos? This kind of online record is also okay. Nick Fury's pupils shrank. However, he knew that as the Foundation exploded and dominated the sky to form a projection, all things related to the Foundation were worth 100 times, and countless people fanatically chased this existence. In the past, all the projected images were recorded or sold by someone. Don't say anything else. Organizations and powerful forces in various countries alone must have video backups of these. Don't ask him why he's so sure, because that's what they do with SHIELD. Make a copy of the recording in case you need it. These are before definitely understandable. But now, all became death gods who demanded their lives. Not to mention, when this loophole is discovered, there will definitely be countless people who want to take advantage of it. The cost of copying a photo or recording a video is really too low, and anyone can do it. Quick, notify the Information Security Department. The entire network blocks relevant data videos. Never let any data leak out. Also, notify the Security Council and note to all countries in the world. Be sure to block it completely. Let the agent of the Ministry of Information block relevant content from the entire network. Never allow it. Even the slightest trace appears on the internet. Nick Fury's face was gloomy, and his expression was extremely tense. Because a shy person kills the program, it takes 1 to 2 minutes to kill one, and the threat and destructiveness are far inferior to the previous natural disaster type containment. So the marinated egg is too dignified, and it is regarded as a crisis of annihilation. But now, its dangers rise absolutely infinitely. The special trigger method makes it the easiest to use and the most troublesome among the contained objects. The hunting grounds of other contained objects are the landing places. For most human beings, they are just watching a killing drama, and it has nothing to do with them. But Shy Man, its hunting ground is the whole world, and even more, Mutant Academy, obviously. It wasn't just Nick Fury who realized the horror of things. Quite a lot of smart people reacted. Danger. Absolutely don't allow its images to circulate on Earth. Professor X's pupils shrank, and while Cyclops led the students to clean up, he himself started to act. The huge super ability blooms, taking its own radius as the original center, aggressively invading other people's thinking, controlling human actions, and starting to delete relevant network information, erasing network traces as much as possible, as well as relevant memories in their minds. It was definitely not just the two of them who acted in the same way. All over the world. In an instant, it became a mess, especially the turbulent internet. In the face of the two doomsday natural disasters, the internet that has not collapsed is hardened, and it is completely cold now. Military, sir, the erasure of information has begun. The young major reported with the documents in his arms. The general nodded. The tense mood finally relaxed a little. Fortunately, they discovered it in time, and the situation should not have deteriorated beyond control. Call. He breathed a sigh of relief. But suddenly, a trembling sound of surprise came from his ear. Long. Sir, if seeing it in videos and photos is considered a trigger medium, then we're now, the young major pointed in front of him. On the screen, expose the footage of SCP-096. It will be broadcast live all over the world simultaneously. Among other things, they are one of the watching crowd. Hiss, the army general gasped and turned on the light, looking at the screen in surprise. Just at the moment, SCP-096, which was still hovering around the corner, suddenly squatted down shyly and buried his face in his hands. This is hunting posture. Quick, tell everyone, stop watching the exposure video. Block all relevant exposure videos to level 10 prohibited. Finally, repeat. So people, don't look up at the sky. The Army General's horrified voice sounded in the conference room. With trembling arms, he wished he could gouge out his eyeballs. If he hadn't seen the pictures in the video, he would have been locked by SCP-096 in all likelihood. With his character of saving his life, he would definitely rush out and run away. Chapter 050. Unimaginable Speed. The Rule of Death if you touch it. Gotham City. Has the killing started? Bruce frowned, notifying the global warning, which has been forced to all mobile phones. But as Batman, he obviously won't be afraid of it. If he wanted to be targeted, he would have been targeted a long time ago. Let him throw away his phone and close his eyes, and then wait for death or survive in ignorance. This negative approach has never been in his character. Bruce cared more about SCP-096's method of killing than escaping like a mouse. Across the space, can you also sense the tracking? Bruce frowned. Soon, Fax told him the answer. On the broadcast screen, the light and shadow suddenly came on, and SCP-096 was squatting in the corner, crying vaguely. Sudden, this appeared in place. The space around the video is transformed along with it. Wait until the screen appears again. The target has appeared on a bustling street, surrounded by cars and crowds. SCP-096 appears on the side of the road. The colorless eyes raise their heads and locked on a somewhat obese woman in front of them. The extremely fast speed is like a sports car with the accelerator pressed to the bottom, and it is the kind that starts from zero, like a gust of wind blowing. When he stood still again, he was already in front of the obese woman. Then, pounce on her face. Prickly, the sound of tearing resounded in the street, followed by a bloody scene. The murderous appearance could not cover up the bloody appearance even if coated. It made people sick. Oh, so disgusting. My God, the method of killing people in this containment is too disgusting, right? Scaring someone to death. This is more brutal than queuing up and shooting. Caught off guard by the bloody scene that appeared on the screen, countless people instinctively felt nauseous and almost vomited out the overnight meal. Although there are eagle sauces in other countries, the United States sent prohibition regulations. But people who can't control their curiosity and want to die will obviously never disappear. After all, there are always people who are lucky. 7 billion people. Why come to me so soon? Going my own way and still looking up at the sky. There is no way to hide the bright scene in the sky. Block the source? Non-existent. Compared with those curious guys, Bruce, who is desperately guarding in front of the screen, is obviously looking for first-hand information. Really, the cold face sank completely. The obese woman who was killed was lying in a pool of blood, and the mobile phone in her hand was playing the exposure video. A terrifying attack cannot be detected by the naked eye. Only when it comes, the person dies. An attack beyond ordinary comprehension. And the death of the obese woman is obviously just the beginning of the prelude. The constant flow of people on the street is her real hunting ground. It was seen again. He squatted down in an instant, and the sound of whimpering and crying sounded in the street. It sounds pitiful and distressing. But for passersby who know the details of SCP-096 and have seen it kill with their own eyes, this is simply the whisper of Death God. Help! Help! I don't want to die. Where's the superhero? Run, monster! There are monsters behind. Horrified eyes appeared on the faces of countless people, and then various scenes of running wildly were staged. Didi, Zila Clang rumble running desperately in multiple directions under the threat of death. Everything was left behind. Those with the car opened the accelerator to the highest level and rushed out directly. Those who were walking lost their things in their hands and immediately took out the speed of a 100-meter sprint. Some of the quick-witted ones rushed into the alleyway, twisting and turning, trying to cover their figures with the terrain. Just a moment. The bustling and troubled neighborhood instantly turned into a scene of a large car accident. Various disasters occurred frequently, and the sound of car crashes and explosions was not uncommon, making it seem like a mess. It happened to be the scene of the killing of SCP-096. A gust of wind blew by, and another fresh life disappeared. Then, feeling being watched, he continued to squat down and cry. Kill. Cry. Kill. Cry. It's like a killing cycle. A hole. Aren't we going to do it like this? Captain America slapped the table angrily with an unusually solemn expression. The location of SCP-096 killing has been locked, and a landmark of the Statue of Liberty is next to it. Do you have any questions? Shoot. Nick Fury pressed down on the table and shook his head firmly. No, we can't act rashly until the investigation is clear. The target this time is different from the previous monsters. The speed at which SCP-096 kills is uncanny. It rushed up at an extremely fast speed, and then there was a bloody death. The picture slowed down for countless frames, and it was impossible to find the method it used, just like the rule of dying if you touch it. Chapter 051. The fastest man in the world? Quicksilver versus shy people. People are dead, that's for sure. But how do people die? No way of knowing. Under the premise that SCP-096 killing efficiency is limited, Braised Ann is definitely not willing to release his trump card to consume when the situation is unclear. If it really gets in, he'll cry to death. Are you just letting it go like this? That's the heart of the Empire. Captain America slapped the table angrily and watched the people die one by one. This is definitely not his character. Rather die in battle than perish while waiting. The tip of the needle is against the wheat, and neither side is willing to back down, seeing that it is time for internal strife. Dr. Strange's sudden voice rang in his ears. Don't worry. Calm down. There are changes in the exposure video. The person who was hunted down by that monster seems to have been rescued. Dr. Strange pointed excitedly at the screen. A sound that cannot be caught by the naked eye flickered in the picture. The speed was faster than the teleportation, and the tiger grabbed the food abruptly, and the gun shot down the prey of SCP-096. Below the Statue of Liberty, there have been various car accidents staged on the streets. Whoosh! An afterimage quickly passed by, abruptly in front of SCP-096, and took away its target this time. The exaggerated speed cannot be captured by the naked eye, until he stopped and stood up straight. Only then could he barely see his figure clearly in the stormy waves. He wears a black-gray windbreaker in a cooler tone, and wears sunglasses that look like goggles, and the silver-gray hair on the top of his head is unexpectedly conspicuous. Quicksilver, Pietro Maximoff. Hello, listen to me. Killing people in a busy city is not a good habit. Quicksilver shook his head handsomely, put down the girl he had snatched from his hands, and gained a fangirl in minutes. On the streets, where countless people are wailing and fleeing for their lives, he who forcibly saves people is definitely a unique scenery. Military hiss, SCP-096 was stopped. Quick, find out that person. And his speed just now. The general's pupils shrank. As if seeing hope in a desperate situation, he looked excited, as if he had found a life-saving straw. Turn out to be, can the contained objects be suppressed by human power? Mutant Academy Quicksilver. Professor X frowned. As a good friend of Magneto, the two have loved and killed each other for a lifetime. He definitely knows something about Quicksilver, and even his sister, Scarlet Witch Wanda. Definitely a top mutant. With a movement speed different from that of Superman. Superman is a top existence, even in mutant. But pure speed, can it really escape the pursuit of SCP-096 and break its power? Professor X has always been skeptical about this. But soon, his doubts were confirmed. Because SCP-096 in the broadcast screen moved. Saw a black shadow flashed past, and it was almost beyond the limit of the naked eye's capture. Even the countless people who were staring at the screen did not realize that it had moved until it stopped. Quicksilver is just a dazzle. The swearing voice, just now, was still on the lips. Opening his eyes, he found that the girl he put down just now had turned into a cold, dead body. Unrecognizable, the dead can no longer die. Oh, you actually killed someone in front of me? Quicksilver gritted his teeth angrily. Just wanted to teach it a lesson with super speed and smash this wacky monster to pieces. Result: woo woo woo. Whimpering sobs erupt from SCP-096. At some point, it squatted down again and began to cry. Shy people have entered a state of shyness. In other words, after successfully killing it, it began to lock on the target again. And this time, it's Quicksilver. Run! Wanda's nervous voice came from behind. The origin magic power bloomed in his hand, and the scarlet radiance directly smashed it out of his hand. Boom! The force that can control the compression of the car into a ball hits SCP-096, but there is no wind or wave. Even the sound of it covering its face and crying did not change. The crying sound remained the same, and to the ears of others, it was completely the Banshee's life-threatening wailing. What the hell? Quicksilver looked up with a dark face, and by the time he realized it, SCP-096 had stood up from crying. Blank eyes turned to Quicksilver, then turned into a black shadow. Depend on. Quicksilver's back felt cold. He broke out in a cold sweat and instinctively turned on his super ability to run. Under the threat of death, the speed instantly increased to the limit. Call out. The moving figure cannot be captured at all. Even if the frame rate is slowed down to countless times, the body of Quicksilver cannot be captured, and the trajectory of his movement can only be judged by the items that were exploded in the high-speed movement. Military, quick. Give me a modeling analysis. What is the speed of that guy? The Army general stared wide-eyed, breathing heavily. I never thought that the speed of the human body could be so fast that afterimages can't be seen clearly. If it wasn't for the cars and sundries being blasted by the super high-speed wind and waves, they wouldn't even be able to capture the traces of Quicksilver's actions. This is the recorder with the highest frame rate in the military. Chapter 052, The Speed Beyond Time. Go backwards in time. Sir, preliminary estimates show that the opponent's speed may have reached 750,000 kilometers per hour. When the rapporteur read this conclusion, his voice trembled. 208 kilometers per second. 611 times faster than the speed of sound. The fastest missile in the world is only 20 times the speed of sound, and even its exhaust can't catch up. The general looked at the report tremblingly. Before he had time to marvel, the content on the broadcast screen made his eyes widen again. Quicksilver's speed of 600 times the speed of sound has shocked him inexplicably, but he never expected that there would be someone more brave than him. With Quicksilver's abnormal movement speed, the SCP-096 behind was still approaching. Looks like an effortless pursuit. Just can't blink. SCP-096 is already on his back. Oh, stay away from my brother. Frightened and uneasy, Wanda, who was extremely angry, directly activated the true power of Origin Magic Power. Alter reality. Wanda gritted her teeth and cast a spell. Her eyes were replaced by the red light of Origin Magic Power, and the scarlet energy emerging from her hands made the space vibrate even more, and she already possessed the mighty power of the initial alter reality. Boom! Throwing down on SCP-096 blatantly. Stop! Scarlet Witch's indifferent roar sounded. The body is automatic without wind, and is pulled by a powerful force to float in midair. The power to distort reality blooms in his hands. Even if it is only mild, it can still rewrite reality to a certain extent. SCP-096, shrouded in Origin Magic Power, slowed visibly to the naked eye. The crimson light shrouded it, trying to modify the reality related to it, hindering its pursuit of Quicksilver and even erasing its existence from the very beginning. The force that distorts reality collided, and the surrounding space began to turbulent like folds. Mutant Academy. Wanda, can she stop it successfully? Professor X was waiting for the battle, frowning, with an unusually solemn expression. He could feel an unimaginable power in Wanda's body, but it hadn't been guided out, not even weaker than the existence he had seen on the piano. Now, with Wanda rage out of control, this force finally came to reality. Kamar Taj, Origin Magic Power. Ancient One's pupils shrank. Knowing all kinds of secrets, she quickly recognized the power of Wanda. If this power really comes from its source, even more terrifying than Dormammu. The mortal enemy of Mage's lineage, the Lord of the Dark Dimension, is the real god of Hades, Sithorn, and the power displayed in Wanda's hands seems to be even more strange and powerful. Easily alter reality, but too immature. Ancient One sighed. The prospects are indeed limitless, but the current Wanda is obviously not strong enough. The control over Origin Magic Power is too poor. Even if it's because anger broke through the limiting barrier, it's not enough. Almost at the moment when Ancient One's voice fell. Click! The scarlet light that hindered the movement was easily broken free by SCP-096, and the speed of chasing Quicksilver broke through again. With Wanda's hard work, he managed to open a distance and was chased up in an instant. Then bloody, in a blink of an eye, Quicksilver was easily dealt with by SCP-096. The tragic death made countless people recall the horror of the contained objects and witness their brutality with their own eyes. No, a shrill howl sounded from Wanda's mouth. Endless anger surged from her body. Terrifying energy radiance bloomed in midair, and infinite Origin Magic Power permeated from her body. Half of the sky was dyed.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.